Hello! I'm not sure if this is working. I never am. Let's see. Yep, chatting, showing me live. Hi, everybody! It's been a while. Yep, chatting, showing me live. Oops. Hi, everybody! That was me being a dumb streamer because I don't know how to do this. Starting. Oops. Starting shortly. Shortly. Oh my god. I'm typing around the base of my microphone. If you're watching in the VOD, I'll start in a few minutes when the starting screen goes away. I'll give people about 10 minutes to trickle in. By the way, I'm Nathan Hatch, and we talk about health and nutrition and stuff like that. I'm not a nutritionist or a medical professional, though. This is just amateur science and health and wellness from somebody who's lived it. And I don't stream regularly, but once in a while. Yeah, so I'll come back and we'll start in about 10 minutes. Hey, everybody. There's a few of you here. More than I deserve for not having streamed in like a year. It's been a very long time. I have not been streaming. Who's here? Oh, I forgot to mute the... Oops, I forgot to mute the stream I have up. The browser. Because I'm not good at doing this. But hi, everybody. How have you all been? If you're not the people who usually watch, you can chat in the chat. Hi, Javier. Yeah, it has. I've been so busy. I've always meant to stream more, but like when my brain is deep in some... Hi, Mike. Mike, it's so good to see you. It's been a long time. I think of you every time I think of streaming. When my brain is deep in like research and like the logistics stuff that I have to do, and I'm all, you know, you guys know too that I coach like for income, so like I spend a lot of my days talking to people on webcam and writing emails and then researching and then writing my books, and then, you know, and then I was going to stream sooner, but then I realized I could convert a lot of my books because I stopped doing... So a lot of you, if you don't know, like I have books that I offer for sale, and but the ebook is donation based, so you can pay according to your income level, so that everybody has access to the information. But I changed the model of distribution. I'm no longer holding the books myself. Well, I wasn't holding them myself. They were at a distribution company. And I would like order the books from the printer. And then, here, we can switch over to the starting since, oops, that's the screen. Yeah. So there's no more music. I would order the books from the printer. Then they would go to the distributor, and then they would sit in the distributor until people bought them. And so they were also always editions or information of the last printing that I had done instead of the most current one. And then on top of that, it was a lot of cost to pay the distributor for the storage and the order fulfillment. And it was just really kind of a headache. And then the printer that I use, which is Ingram, which a lot of people use because they're like the best. Oh yeah, you should, Mike. Well, I mean, yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the cookbook, it's so fun. But now people, well, if you're in the UK or the US, you can order directly from the printer, or you can just go to your local bookstore and ask for a copy. Some people have done that, but like one person, for instance, went to a bookstore to ask them to get they were in Australia, and they asked the bookstore to get them a copy of my cookbook, and they quoted them $200 for it. So it was fucking kind of insane. So it's not an entirely smooth process, but if someone does that to you, if a store does that to you, they're just trying to gouge you because my books, obviously are not a common product that is widely available in high competition. So you just call around to other bookstores, because for instance, it should just be like a normal. I mean, my books are more expensive than normal because I don't sell a lot of them, but yeah, it shouldn't be $200. It should have been more like $60 Australian. But yeah, anyway, so it's a lot easier. And so now I realized too that I could do hard copies of my books finally for the first time, because hard copies are a lot more expensive to print, like 3 times the amount of a paperback. And so I couldn't offer hard copies because I would have had to front that cost and then held those in the distributor, and I just couldn't afford to do that. So, but now, since you can order directly from the printer, you can get hard copies, and the hard copies are so cute. They have like a book jacket. Shipping. Oh, but Javier, the thing is that my printer does have a printing operation in Australia. So if you're in Australia and you go to a bookstore asking for a copy, it should come from Australia, and so it should just be normal Australian prices. And so that's why it's so great, and also why it's so weird that that the bookstore quoted them $200, because it absolutely would not cost $200 to get the book there, because it's not actually coming from the USA. And but the company doesn't offer direct ordering for you guys, but yeah. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, the hard copies are so cute. They're like because they have a dust jacket. So the dust jacket are the covers that I designed, but with those flaps that wrap around the edges have more graphics on them. And then the actual hardcover underneath the jacket is like a simplified version, a very, very, very simplified version of each of those covers in a different color. And so they're really cute. And also, too, guys, like somebody was telling me recently, one of you was telling me recently that they had downloaded my new book, Under a Libra God. Oh my God, I haven't even streamed since I released that, right? Oh, Jesus Christ, I have not streamed in a long time. Sorry. He was telling me that he had downloaded it by ebook, but he's somebody that has been a really long time high tier supporter. So I mailed him a hard copy of my new book as a thank you gift, and he got the copy, and he said he realized how much more fun it seemed to be reading from an actual hard copy, because while ebooks are great and they're very convenient and you can even search them, I didn't realize actually how much of a deterrent ebooks are to reading. Like, even though you can get lots of books digitally, the actual act of reading a book digitally is excruciating. It's not fun. It's hard on your eyes. You don't get to feel the paper or smell the paper, and you don't like not much of the text fits on screen. If you have one of those like Paperwhite reading devices, that probably would be like a lot better. But like, I just realized that even though ebooks make reading much more accessible, that I think they actually like really impair people's desire and ability to read, and that the actual printed books are way better. And so like, especially if you find, my writing isn't that great, and my books are enormous. They're so long. They're too long. And so if you find them difficult to read, like actually having a printed copy probably is going to be a lot more ideal for that. And like, I buy print books all the time. I don't ever read hard copy. I mean, print digital books. I just bought because did you guys see the? I'm really rambling because it's been a while. Did you guys see the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein? I was so excited for it because it looked like such a fucking good movie, and it was such a fucking good movie. And I wanted to read the original Frankenstein because I never have. So I bought the last book I bought was Mary Shelley's. Actually, I got a copy that has Mary Shelley's first original draft, and then the one that she did in collaboration with her husband, which is the final book. And it's just been so much fun to read. Like, I just love it. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I've been up to and why I haven't been here. Okay, Mike, before I get to the topics. Oh, I don't have any topics. Actually, I probably am going to talk about the Silicon stuff a lot since that was my last update. And my new book. But yeah, I'll answer that right away. Your friend loved the Frankenstein movie. Mike, does that mean you didn't, or you haven't seen it? Because I think that implies you haven't seen it yet. Because it is on Netflix, so you have to have a subscription there. And I don't ever maintain subscriptions. I like sign up when there's something I want to watch, and then I cancel it. Yeah. Sign up, Mike. Sign up just on the cheap version to watch it. It's a beautiful movie. And like I have such a crush on oh, what's his name? The main actor that plays the monster. He's so cute and wonderful and so good. It's just heartbreaking. You still rent DVDs? That's fucking awesome, Mike. I would love to do that, actually. My apartment is very small, and I don't even have a TV. I just use my computer for TV. Oh yeah, Jacob Elordi. Love him. He's turned out to be. He's such a good actor. And as the monster, it's just it's such a good movie. A lot of you don't know this, that I like one of my ambitions when I was younger was to be a film writer, and that's one of the reasons why I moved to LA. So I just really like film. I'm not a cinephile, but I'm really into film, so I like it a lot. Yeah, so Mike, you wanted to ask about cinnamon, how to supplement it to address excessive nitric oxide. No, have I said that cinnamon guards against that? It doesn't. Cinnamon. The reason to use like cinnamon is for its tannin content and also its cinnamic acid content. And I use the term cinnamic acids to refer to every derivative that is made from cinnamic acid. There's a lot of them. In fact, actually, wood, which is lignin, is a derivative of cinnamic acid. Actually, which means, interestingly enough, I think I'm not totally sure if I'm correct on this, but if lignin is made from cinnamic acid, it means that cinnamon is older than wood itself in evolutionary terms. It's really cool. I used to think that like cinnamon trees were like some variant of of plant that specialized in producing that compound, but in fact, what is more likely because of that fact is that cinnamon is probably one of the oldest plant compounds, actually, and that many early plants probably all tasted and smelled of cinnamon. But the primary reason to use cinnamon is in its is for the cinnamic acid, because cinnamic acid scavenges the hydroxyl radical, which is a major strategy by which pathogenic organisms defend themselves against our immune system. So our immune system produces hydrogen peroxide, which oxidizes halides into hypohalous acids that kill pathogens. And hydrogen peroxide will also kill them anyway, but the hypohalous acids are the more potent part. But so microbes use free iron, copper, and manganese to split hydrogen peroxide into two hydroxyl radicals, and so they basically like reverse Uno card our immune system back onto us to cause oxidative damage while defending themselves. And we don't have any innate mechanism to scavenge hydroxyl radicals because it's always been performed by dietary cinnamic acids and the derivatives of cinnamic acid. And so when you have a diet that's really high in fruits and vegetables, the primary reason that it is protective is actually because of cinnamic acids that help to defend your body against opportunistic pathogenic infections. And this is one of the reasons why excess dietary iron, especially iron fortification of like flour, which is so common in Western industrialized societies, is so detrimental to our health and so harmful to our health and causes stomach ache, chronic stomach aches, and chronic sinus infections, is because the availability of that free iron that is added to the food enables pathogenic microbes to more easily colonize your body, producing the hydroxyl radical, which then causes massive and systemic oxidative stress to your body, and prevents your immune system from actually eradicating them. So cinnamon, I'm not sure what I said about cinnamon and nitric oxide, if I said something that indicated that, but it would be like the use of cinnamon because of its tannins and cinnamic acids just helps the body to further eradicate pathogenic colonization, which in turn lowers excessive nitric oxide production, just because the immune system actually accomplishes its goal in eradicating a chronic infection. But very often it's very difficult to fully eradicate chronic infection. So having anything with cinnamic acids, which is anything that has like a euphoric taste. Like if you put something in your mouth and you get this like euphoric sensation that you're like, oh my God, this is just the fucking best thing I've ever tasted in my life. Like I just had some, there was a bunch of persimmons at the store that are ripe. So I got a whole bag of persimmons and I've just been eating them. And like those flavors of like peaches, hi Lena, peaches and, apricots and nectarines and plums. Like when you put a nectarine in your mouth and you just go, holy fuck, this is so good. That is, you are tasting the cinnamic acids. Those are the flavors of those things. Very interestingly, one of the like root beer and sassafras and bay leaves. Like I talk about using these all the time in your diet. And as tea, we use bay laurel in soup making, and then but also there's what are called Indian bay leaf. They're all relatives of cinnamon. I forget the group or clade or whatever that they're in. They all have these aromas that are very like spices in the right, like a spice. Like they're like, they have kind of like that cinnamony wonderful sweetness to them, and it's because those are like early defensive compounds against pathogenic organisms that plants evolved that still benefit us today. So when you like use and yeah, okay, so Lena, I don't buy a particular brand of cinnamon. I just try to buy, like, cinnamon can be expensive, so I tend to buy it online in bulk. So if I can find like a good quality cinnamon that isn't too expensive, then I'll buy it. The Ceylon cinnamon is way sweeter and much more tasty, but it also is really expensive, especially now in the US with all this chaos that's going on with inflation and tariffs. Things have just gotten fucking expensive. So I just look around for a good deal rather than a brand. And I try to buy it in bulk. But also, too, you don't need to only rely on cinnamon. Like, cinnamon is very useful, but you can also use nutmeg and like cardamom. And, you can basically use any spice, turmeric. And like one of the reasons turmeric works is because curcumin is, curcumin. I always say that one wrong. Curcumin is Also, a derivative is also cinnamic acid. They're derivatives of cinnamic acid, and any of them work very, very well. Ginger, like ginger root, one of the reasons it's so therapeutic is because the compounds in ginger are cinnamic acids too. And then that's why like using Indian bay leaf tea is so great. But if you haven't done that before, like I have directions in my book, but like it's not like making normal tea. It doesn't brew quickly. You have to simmer it covered for like a full hour. And then I let it even steep for another hour after that. And then it turns this rich red color, and it has this really sweet, very like hint of licorice and cinnamon together. It's like, it's really, really good. And I love using that stuff. So yeah. Oh, Mike, I put cinnamon in my coffee almost daily. Like if I remember, sometimes I forget, but I put cinnamon probably, like it's called Mexican coffee. Mexicans put cinnamon in their coffee generally. You can put cinnamon. I put like I'll just put like a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon in my coffee in each cup that I drink. Not each cup. What I usually do is I put a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon in the first cup of coffee that I drink. And it's really lovely. But I usually have about 3 cups of coffee every day. Of like the like potent French press brewing, and so then the other 2 that I drink won't have cinnamon, but the first one will. And I probably do that like 4 times a week. Yeah. So cinnamic acids are really, really important. They're one of the foundational strategies for rehabilitating your health. And a lot of people don't know about this and don't use it purposefully, but it's also one of the reasons why we have such systemic illness in industrialized societies, because the foods that are common to industrialized food systems are very, very low in cinnamic acids. You have to, it's cinnamon, and it's nutmeg, and it's cardamom, and it's turmeric and ginger, and leaves like sassafras, or like, another one in North America is called northern spice bush, which Native Americans used to use very commonly for their medicinal treatment. And then you have Indian bay leaf, and then bay laurel, and like bay leaf for cooking is probably one of the only common cinnamic acid sources in industrialized food systems, because it still gets used in like pre-made stocks and soups and other foods that you might get at the store. But most people just are not getting any cinnamic acids in their diet pretty much at all. This is one of the ironies that I often talk about in terms of soda consumption and beverage, like soft drink consumption, which is that when soft drinks were first made, which was primarily like in the industrial revolution United States, they were, early Coca-Cola, early root beer, early like whatever the fuck was the precursor to, Dr. Pepper. I guess Dr. Pepper was one of the original ones. They were actually tonics that were brewed out of these kinds of plants. And that's why you had fucking root beer. Root beer is literally made from high cinnamic acid sassafras plants. And Coke obviously originally was coca leaves. And then I don't know what like Dr. Pepper and other stuff was, but it was really ironic because these were marketed as tonics by people that did not believe they were tonics. They just wanted to make money off of the population and called them tonics. And the population bought them. But the irony was that they actually were tonics. They actually were medicinal. Like early Coca-Cola, like a lot of people don't know this. And obviously like coca is cocaine. Cocaine is the refined form of coca leaves. Cocaine is actually antiparasitic. So, and I'm not saying don't go do cocaine. It's like, but this is why people get addicted to cocaine, is because it is antiparasitic, because these plants are like really high in things, in cinnamic acids and other antimicrobial compounds that when Coca-Cola first came out, and it has all these spices in it, and also coca leaves, and you have root beer, they were really popular beverages because they literally were medicinal in their inhibition of literally in just their inhibition of the hydroxyl radical that pathogens use to try to resist our immune system and colonize our body. So what you ended up doing was conditioning and training the general public to consume beverages with meals that were like, tonics, that were like sodas, but they were literally made out of teas and leaves and spices. So they actually were therapeutic. But then, because those companies did not actually believe they were therapeutic, it was just a business model to earn money, they later ended up changing the formula to stuff that's now just colored sugar water. It has absolutely no protective compounds in it at all. And this is a really big problem because, and nobody knows this, this is part of my research and academic science that I do, is that using water, so this is established science, not established science. It's confirmed in a study, but nobody knows about it because nobody's ever looked into this really, is that the enzymes that microbes use in your gut to produce ammonia from amino acids, especially arginine, the enzymes arginase and arginine diamidinase, they use water as a cofactor in the enzyme. So they use water in a hydrolysis to break the bonds of amino acids that contain the nitrogen, and that ends up, and they produce ammonia as a result of that. And so if you drink pure water with protein, which is what pretty much most people do in the United States in industrialized societies, you end up promoting ammonia producing microbes, and you literally create an environment that's ideal for them to produce ammonia, to neutralize your stomach acid, to colonize your body, to disrupt the pH and cause ammonification and alkalization of the gut and then the body thereafter. So people in industrialized capitalist societies have been conditioned over the last quite a few centuries, decades, not centuries, decades, to do this behavior because they were first drinking actually therapeutic tonics that were made from real teas and spices that contain tannins and cinnamic acids and stuff that blocked this from happening. Now those drinks no longer contain any of that, so you're literally drinking the cofactor that microbes need to actually colonize your gut and cause disease. And normally, you don't really need to drink fluids with meals. Normally in a healthy person, you produce sufficient saliva that the food is wetted and moisturized, and then you produce stomach juice, gastric juice, which contains stomach acid and enzymes and things like that, but also contains water. But the water that's in your saliva and that's in your gastric juice is also protected by antimicrobial proteins and immunoglobulins and other and mucus proteins itself that actually protect the water in your body fluids. And then there's also immune enzymes in those fluids too, like the immune peroxidases, like lactoperoxidase is one of the most prominent. And so in a healthy person, your fluids, your natural fluids contain these protective factors that also help to protect against pathogenic colonization. But then if you just drink pure water with a big meal and protein, the water doesn't contain any of those protective factors. So it gives those microbes a real quick opportunity to actually set up and cause disease. So cinnamon, adding spices, and it's one of the reasons too why a lot of places around the world. Like a lot of people, I remember when I used to be, hi Gabby's, hi Rima. Oh, hi Rima. Nice to see you. So a lot of places around the world that don't have overly industrialized food systems, like, you know, India, like Bangladesh, like places in Africa, you know, they still cook with huge amounts of spices, and those spices protect your body from colonization by those microbes. So they end up so like I remember when I was like used to be on forums that people were always like citing particular populations around the world as like having longevity and trying to replicate their dietary standards and behaviors and trying to find those secrets to health that, like, you know, that some poor person in Bangladesh ironically has a better diet than rich people in America because they're literally just eating good food that's homemade, that contains large amounts of spices, and drinking tea regularly. And it's literally primarily because of cinnamic acids and like tannins that those populations do have those health traits. It's not from exotic, like, oh, they have this like one like special food that they eat. No, it's not that. It's these ubiquitous antimicrobial compounds that exist in nature and are very common in plants, but we just don't fucking eat them in industrialized societies. So so it's really not hard. But they're not always available to us in industrialized Western society. So you have to kind of go out of your way to get some. Yeah. Rima, you said you had kefir 6 months ago, caused some disruption. Your stomach is still not okay. Yeah, Rima. So I have this friend who, like, I coached him a long time ago, and he got better initially, but then he got sick again later, and then he kind of like didn't listen to me and tried to do other things, like look around for other advice, and he told me he had kefir, and he said it was the most sick that he had ever been in his life. And he had been recovering from Lyme disease for a really long time. And he had Lyme disease, and he said that when he had kefir, it made him the most sick he has ever been. Oh, I just hit my table. Yeah, kefir. Yeah. A lot of people like, the stuff you hear about that shit, it's not true. It's not good. The only reason that kefir and yogurt and like sour cream and those kinds of things exist in our diet is because they used to be the primary means of food preservation before we had refrigeration. Milk and meat despoil very, very quickly if they're not refrigerated. And we've only had refrigerators, you know, for what, like 50 years? No, not 50, but like what, 70, 80 years? Refrigeration has not been around for a long time, and so food despoiled very quickly. So if you wanted to keep dairy around, you either had to turn it into cheese or like soured stuff like kefir and sour cream and yogurt. But whenever you ferment dairy, because it's very high in calcium, it will result in a high degree of lactic acid production, and lactic acid is highly toxic to our body. Lactic acid lowers your metabolic rate. It disrupts your commensal microbiome, and it's not nutritive either. Like our body can produce like 1 or 2 molecules of ATP from lactic acid. It's like nothing. When you oxidize carbohydrate in the mitochondria, you end up producing up to 36 molecules of ATP per molecule of glucose. But 1 molecule of lactic acid only results in like 1 or 2, I can't remember the exact number, but it's like 1 or 2 ATP. So like lactic acid is very harmful. And when I was in my, when I was like 19, 20, 21, and I tried to commit suicide when I was 21, I was eating like a pint of yogurt a day, because I had heard that yogurt was really good for you. And I also didn't have a lot of cooking skills at the time. And I already suffered from depression. And so I was literally just buying lots of yogurt because I heard it was good for you. And when it had a lot of like sugar and fruit in it, it did taste pretty good. But like it made me way sicker and way more depressed than I would have been if I instead had been just eating lots of fruit every day and getting enough protein and getting sunshine every day. I wouldn't have I tried to kill myself. Yogurt, lactic acid is so bad for you. And I constantly get people too coming to me saying like, oh, they're following my work and things aren't working. And then I'm like, okay, then well, what's your diet like? What are you eating? And they always list Greek yogurt in their fucking diet. And I'm like, no, it's not okay to eat. Because it's straining, it doesn't fucking, because Greek yogurt is like strain, and that's like why it's called Greek yogurt. That doesn't do anything to help. Like you can't, like the whole problem is that yogurt still not only has lots of lactic acid in it, it also has the microbes that produce that lactic acid. So every time you eat like kefir or yogurt or like a little bit of sour cream won't bother you. Like if you're out at a restaurant, Indian restaurant, and you want some raita with your dinner, go ahead and have that. It's like, totally fine. When you have a healthy gut, your gut microbes can metabolize lactic acid into short-chain fatty acid. So it's not harmful to have a little bit. And your gut microbiome does produce a little bit of lactic acid normally anyway. But if you're spooning like, yeah, Mike, if you're spooning like Activa or, you know, a bucket, if you're drinking a whole thing of kefir, you're just wiping out your commensal microbiome in one go. And then, and not only that, but you're also consuming these microbes that like can actually exist in your gut for a long period of time, constantly producing lactic acid, which will just lower your metabolic rate, increase your stomach aches. And yeah, it's just really, and the reason lactic acid lowers your metabolic rate is because lactic acid when our cells produce lactic acid, it is a result of impaired mitochondrial respiration. So your body has this alarm from the production of the lactic acid that it knows something is amiss. So it lowers your metabolic rate in order to keep you alive, to prevent you from over consuming nutrients, from producing excessive oxidative stress. So literally when you eat, so if you have a huge amount of lactic acid in your meal, you're basically like replicating metabolic disease. You're tricking your body into thinking it has metabolic disease and needs to lower its metabolic rate. It's just really bad. Like it's just really, really bad. But Rima, so like the way to get over it, because you said your stomach is still not okay. Supplement pectin every day for like 2 or 3 weeks. Pectin can only be metabolized into acetic acid. It cannot be metabolized into lactic acid. So only acetic acid producers will be advantaged by eating the pectin. And you don't need a lot too. Probably like a teaspoon. Yeah, okay, Javier, you had Greek yogurt this morning. Yeah, Javier, did I say that JV or something earlier? I'm sorry if I did that. Mike, and yeah, you could use. But the thing with like there's a ton of pectin in apples and apple products, and like you can use apple sauce and you can use like apple butter, which is in my new cookbook, which is because it's really apple butter is fucking amazing. But whole apples still have like sugar and stuff that lactic acid producers can still benefit from. So like literally, like if you have really bad stomach problems, like literally just getting a powdered pectin, not supplement. You usually find it in like baking stuff. It's like available for like making jams and jellies and things like that. So you usually find it in like baking, like you can find it in the baking aisle in your grocery store. You can just get some pectin, just get some powdered pectin because it's everywhere. It's really easy to get, and then and just mix it in some water, and take that for several days, for several weeks, and that will really help shift your gut microbiome over to acetogens. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good stuff. It can help like too if you have like sleep problems, like using some pectin before you go to bed and stuff can also really help, and it can help like restore your stomach acid production and your bile production because all of these pathways are so dependent on acetic acid. So it's one of the reasons why, like, you know, also too, one of the major therapeutic tools, I used to use it more before I understood a lot of these other things, but which was sodium acetate. because sodium acetate, because you can also supplement vinegar and acetate, but it's very volatile. So it's really unpleasant to take. And if you just take pure vinegar, it'll actually burn your mucosal tissues. So if you instead feed acetic acid producers the substrate that they use to make acetic acid, then it'll just get produced in your gut as needed by your commensal microbes, and then you'll make a much better recovery. But yeah, avoid no yogurt, no kefir, no stuff like that. Yeah. But like I said, you don't need to be pedantic about this stuff. Just if you're Indian, if you like, raita is very delicious. Just don't eat it all the time. Just have it once in a while as like a treat. And if you're going out for and I know a lot of other cultures use raita too, but if you go out to an Indian restaurant and you want to have some raita, go ahead. It's fine. Especially if you already have a good working microbiome, they'll just convert the lactic acid to short chain fatty acids anyway. It's just where you have large quantities all the time that it can disrupt your microbiome. So, Gabby's, would I consider making homemade root beer? Maybe. There's so many possibilities with tannin, cinnamic acid, rich herb. Yeah, there is. I probably would actually, because like homemade root beer, there's apparently some toxin in sassafras that if you have like a huge amount of it, it can cause you some problems. I don't know what it is or if that's really actually legit. But that being said, like real root beer is really delicious, and those compounds are very medicinal too. So I probably would. I don't have the setup for that. I have this one room apartment. I'm in a studio. I don't have room to do stuff like that or a budget to do stuff like that. So I don't know if I probably wouldn't. But if someone made me homemade root beer, I would have that. But so what I do though is I have I get those Indian bay leaves. Oh, actually, it's really funny too because the Indian bay leaves are and I think it's like let me look up the scientific name. Indian bay leaf. Cinnamonum tamala. They're very different from the bay leaves that you actually use in cooking, in that the bay leaves you use in cooking are smaller than Indian bay leaf, and the bay leaves in cooking, they're bay laurel, and they have veins that protrude from. They have one center vein, and then other veins that protrude from the that branch out from the center vein. Indian bay leaf has 3 large veins that run down the parallel to each other, so they look very different. If you get bay laurel and brew that into tea, it's gross. Don't do that. People have done that before. They're like, I made bay leaf tea and it was so disgusting. How can you like that? I'm like, you got the wrong leaf. The Indian bay leaf, Cinnamonum tamala that I just mentioned, is also apparently used in like a Hindu like good luck ritual. So you'll see it exploitatively advertised as like for sale for like 10 leaves for like $12. It's ridiculous. It's a scam thing. It's not that expensive. You can find bags of Indian bay leaf that are like $8 for like a giant bag of them, because they're not expensive. So make sure if you buy those that you find that the cheap ones, because they should be cheap. They're not expensive. So Mike, Activia yogurt has ingredient listed as bifidobacteria. Yeah, actually, so bifidobacteria are very good. Yes. Bifidobacteria, they can produce lactic acid, but they primarily produce short chain fatty acids. And that's why they're one of the primary early colonizers of the gastrointestinal system in humans, because they are one of the primary ones that we require. And they can even turn milk. And actually, I remembered I wanted to talk about this too in this because it's related to this. Cheese is also made from dairy, right? But what happens in cheese is that initially there is lactic acid formation, but cheese is aged, and so over time you get more. You get a big, like a larger variety of microbes that end up converting all the lactic acid to short chain fatty acids. So that's why cheese has different flavors, and like especially like Swiss cheese. The primary odor and flavor that is in Swiss cheese is actually propionic acid. Did I say that right? I haven't said that word in like a year. That's made by Propionibacterium. And propionic acid is one of those primary short chain fatty acids that we need. So cheese is much better to use than yogurt and like kefir and stuff, because they not only contain short chain fatty acids but also short chain fatty acid producers. So cheese is different than yogurt and kefir in that sense, because it has different properties. So yeah. So bifidobacteria are really useful. But Mike and others, you guys, like supplements and probiotic products that you buy that contain bifidobacteria most often usually contain also lactobacillus. You do not want to take any product that has lactobacillus. I did one time in my life have good effects from the strain of Lactobacillus reuteri, however you say that. And like there are lactobacillus that are healthy for us, but generally when you're buying a probiotic, it is not for sale to you because it actually is healthy to you. It's for sale to you because it's the one they're very easy to package and store, and they persist in storage very easily. And then you can justify them scientifically sufficiently from existing science. You can justify selling them to people and promoting them as a health thing. They are not. I've had some benefits from using probiotics in the past, but they are like, it's probably like one of the least useful things to do. You guys, a lot of you guys, I think all of you, are obviously like signed up on my Patreon and stuff like that. So you all know that like one of the biggest things that I discovered in the last while, like I think it was just early, like probably like 2 months ago, was that my long-term advice to people to participate in gardening as an activity to overcome metabolic disease isn't optional. I always talked about it like it was an optional, and I always talked about it like it was a good thing to do to get out into the sun. If you garden, you're doing something that's active, and so you enjoy being outside so that you can get vitamin D. But it turns out that we need, as human beings, actual exposure to microbes in the environment, especially soil microbes, in order to recover from metabolic disease. If you don't do that, you cannot get better. You absolutely have to have exposure. And like, because, one of my early discoveries, which was not early, mid-career, like this was like 4 years ago, when I discovered Thalmarchiota as the primary agent of vitamin B12 production in the human microbiome, which is required for all of our other microbes to be able to actually break down food and hi darling, thank you. that benefit us. You can get that Thalmarchiota from the environment. Like literally, if you go play in the dirt, if you go where there is healthy soil, where there's like active plant growth and plant roots, and the soil is nice and dark, and there's worms, and that's what you do when you garden. And so like I was so when I first discovered that, and I've told you guys this already before, but I was when I suspected this, I was like, oh, okay. So like, if this is true, there probably should not be any diabetic gardeners like in the entire world. And I anecdotally got on social media and looked around, and I just like on Instagram, like I did like diabetes gardening like for a search. And in all of Instagram, I could only find 2 people that were gardeners that also had diabetes. And guess what? Every single picture of them gardening, they were wearing gloves, which is very common in gardening. A lot of gardeners wear gloves to protect their hands. But if you're like, one of the benefits of gardening actually is literally exposure to these healthy soil microbes like Thalmarchiota that end up getting on your skin and help participate in your skin health. And like I mentioned, a lot of you probably haven't heard this, in just 1 square centimeter of your skin, there are a billion microbes, and that includes viruses. That's why that number is so high. But it also it includes archaea and bacteria and fungi and yeasts, and the commensal microbes that are skin hosts are just as important as the ones that are in your gut. So it turned out that my long-term advice of like doing gardening as like a way to recover from diabetes wasn't optional. And I came to this conclusion because people that I helped and coached that I told to garden who actually took that advice, they all made full recovery. While the people who didn't do that activity didn't. They would make improvements, but they wouldn't fully recover. And so yeah, and like to hang on real quick, I gotta take a drink of water. A lot of a lot of us don't have access to gardening. I live in a I said earlier, I live in a studio apartment. But I do have a balcony, so I have pots on my balcony, and I do those, and that helps a lot. But yeah. So anyway, so this was all off of Mike's question about bifidobacteria supplements. You cannot get better from supplements. Like supplements are never the key to getting better. It is always in your diet and environment and behaviors. And all the supplements do is help push things further, like help exaggerate and amplify strategies to get better. You can never get better from supplements. You cannot replace natural with things that are unnatural. We all live in these in these environments where we never touch the dirt. We are never in nature. We literally are like in our apartments and then in our cars and then at work and in the grocery store. And you can like maybe sometimes accidentally get microbes from the produce you buy in the grocery store. And but like actually one of the major ways that we get microbes from others, or get microbes that we need, is from other people. Like when you have sex, if you're really slutty and you hook up with lots of people all the time, you are constantly getting like commensal skin and gut microbes from people that you're hooking up with. And it's like a really good way. And so like one of the reasons that I literally got better when I first started this when I lost all that weight and I like recovered from cancer, was because not only because I was eating healthy, like I was eating lots of sugar every day, lots of fruits and vegetables, getting sunshine every day. Then I was being really slutty. I was having sex with like a lot of guys. I was, hooking up all the time. And so I would actually collect Thaumarchiota and other commensal microbes, bifidobacterium, ones that are specialized for the human gut, by literally having sex with other people, because other people are also great reservoirs, not only for disease-causing microbes, but also healthy microbes that we need. And the difference between the two is not exposure, it's what your behavior is, your dietary behaviors, what you eat. So if you are starving and dieting yourself and you're brushing your teeth with depolarizing menthol toothpaste, which I won't get into, but that's in my chapter on oral health. If you're doing all those things and then having sex with other people, then you're exposing yourself to colonization by pathogenic microbes. But if your stomach acid is working great and your mucosal tissues are working good and your immune system's working good and you eat sugar all the time and carotenes and you're getting sun exposure all the time and you have enough halides in your diet, your own body chooses and cultivates the microbes that live there and that produce B vitamins and short-chain fatty acids and proteins that help to promote your health. You guys all know that I recently also, so this is crazy. So, cause when was the last time I streamed? Has it been like a full year? I have not had a single piece of meat this entire year. It's fucking crazy. I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to be vegan or vegetarian. When I tried it in the past, it made me sicker. And it's also because we're also we've been talking about bacteria now for a while. Sorry, everybody that asked questions I haven't gone to yet. I will get to them. A year ago, I discovered how to restore normal endogenous production of hormones. and restore fat absorption, which I didn't really confirm all of it until later. And so like I posted more about the details earlier this year. But when I did that, all of a sudden, I just lost any desire to eat meat. It was fucking crazy. I had a whole stock pot, not a whole, sorry. I had made a whole stock pot full of chicken soup, the recipe that's in my cookbook. Oh yes, which Javier, yeah. Yeah, the recipes are kind of all novice. I tried to make a lot of them easy anyway, because I don't like a lot of effort in cooking. I like stuff that produces like a good amount of food to effort ratio. Yeah, so you'd find it, and there's also like tips, and I explain a lot of the nutritional justification for a lot of the stuff that's in there too. But yeah, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, meat. So I restored my own endogenous production. Oh, and also too, because I haven't, a lot of people don't know this. Like, so about 4 years ago, I stopped taking progesterone and pregnenolone, because I wanted to figure out how to restore endogenous production of it. Because right, like we can't get better from supplements. You've got to fix the underlying reasons that you have to take a supplement anyway in the first place. So, 4 years ago I stopped taking those, and it actually had such a toll on my health. Like literally taking pregnenolone as a supplement had been sustaining my health actually for quite a while, and I aged quite noticeably every year that I wasn't doing it. I got like way more wrinkles and way more gray hair, and gained some weight. And then, but then last year, I finally figured out how to restore endogenous production of fats, which is basically like preventing saponification and promoting cholesterol, micelles, and liposome digestion of fats, like I taught that are now part of my book. And literally immediately when I did that, it was in the middle. It was when I had this a stock pot of chicken soup in my fridge, and there was half of it left. And the idea of eating the chicken just suddenly made me feel so gross. Like I didn't want to eat it. Instead, I had this overwhelming craving for minestrone, very specifically minestrone. My brain was like, we would love some minestrone right now, please. So I literally, and it was so strong that I couldn't even like just finish off and not waste my chicken soup. I just didn't want to eat it. And so I ended up throwing it out. And I went to the store and I bought all the ingredients for minestrone and the minestrone recipe that's in my book, in my cookbook. And I made it, and I made this giant stock pot of minestrone all the way to the top. And I literally had 4 bowls of the minestrone. And it was so delicious. And I haven't had a single piece of meat since. There was one time I was coaching somebody and they were talking about some fried chicken they'd made, and it started making me crave, want some fried chicken really bad. But like actually within, like by the time dinner came around, the craving had gone away. Like it's so weird. So like literally like restoring the normal production of hormones and cholesterol through those strategies actually eliminated any desire to actually eat meat, which was so weird. And also too, though, because here's the thing. I present myself as an example of what you can achieve if you also copy my behaviors. But then what people do is they think that you misunderstand me, and you think that, oh, I should start eating way more vegetables and only vegetables and try to go without protein. That is not how this works. You cannot ideologically control your biology. It is impossible to do. It does not matter how much you want to be healthy, to be sexy, to overcome a disease that you have, or to be vegan or vegetarian. It doesn't matter how much you want those things. You cannot force it. We eating vegetables and fruit and plant foods is much more healthy than animal products. But we cannot break down cellulose as a human animal. We do not possess cellulase. We are 100% dependent on microbes to break down most plant foods. And so if you do not have the requisite factors in place, like Thaumarchiota on your skin, in your gut, producing B12, so that your microbes can actually adhere to plant food to overcome their polarization defenses, you cannot break down plant foods. So I was coaching somebody actually recently who I had been telling all these things to, and they they were in they were in Europe, like middle North Europe, and they said that they had recently eaten a lot of meat when they had like gone to like a social get together. Then somebody had made like a big roast or something like that, and they said it made them feel great. And so they were confused as to why they felt so good on meat and not plant foods, because like I was feeling great on plant foods. So I had to explain this to them. Like, it doesn't matter how much you want to, you can't do that. Like, that's not how it works. Like it's through cravings. Like, you should not, it's not willful. Like, I am not willfully being a vegetarian. I literally have insatiable cravings for collard greens and pinto beans and fruit. I don't have cravings for meat. It is my body doing that. It is not me doing that. But it was because I have been so successful in supporting my gut microbiome that they now have this ability to fully metabolize plant foods, and so then my body benefits from that. If I didn't have that ability and I ate collard greens, they would taste gross to me. They would not taste good. And this is where too, like, you guys all know, like, a lot. I came from Ray Peat's work. There's a big alternative, like Ray Peat community stuff. There's this big disparity between my work and what the general Ray Peat community thinks about foods like plants and vegetables and meat. Ray was not wrong when he talks about stuff like plants being difficult to break down. That all of that is true. He was correct about that. The thing that everyone gets wrong is how to use that information, how to apply that effectively in your own life. What everybody's doing is this willful control of biology. They're like, oh, if we just avoid plant foods, then we'll be healthy. That isn't how this fucking works. We have no control over nature and biology and physics and all this other fucking stuff. Yeah, Gabby's, yeah. So because plant foods, and Ray even fucking says this. Ray says that plant foods are better for us than animal foods, and he's right. It's true. But the thing is that plant foods are harder to break down than animal foods. So if you don't have the requisite microbes in your gut to break down plant foods, you can't benefit from them. So then what happens is that your body naturally craves foods that you can break down, which are generally low anti-nutrient foods like meat and milk and starch, refined starches, like potatoes and white bread, and stuff like that. You crave what you can digest. So because your body instinctively knows and has these, our bodies, our biology is billions of years old. Like we're descended from the earliest organisms, just like every other life on this planet. Our physiology already knows this. Our physiology already knows this. It's already designed to exist in these kinds of in reality. It knows what it needs. It knows what it can do. And so when you lack requisite microbes to break down tough fruits and vegetables, you just crave more easily digested foods. So you have to listen to your cravings. If you crave meat, eat it. If you crave starches, eat it. If you crave fats, eat it. Your body already knows these things. But to be healthy, whoa, that was a weird voice crack. To be healthy, you have to fulfill all the requisites for human our human evolutionary niche in which we evolved in, which doesn't just include, like for fruits and things like that. It also includes the microbiological niche in which we evolved. It also involves the literal, like, physical environment. So, like, when you live inside like a really clean house and apartment all the time, and you're in your car all the time, and you're only at work all the time, you literally are never exposed to the actual natural environment that our literal bodies evolved to exist in, which is designed with the expectation that certain factors or nutrients are available, or microbes are available from the environment. I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but the palms of your hands are actually some of the most prolific secretion areas on the body. Like, you sweat from your palms. You exude carotene from your palms. And I always wondered why that was the case. That just seems so fucking weird. Like, why would our palms do that, right? Sorry, I need a drink. And I thought maybe, like, it could be like, since like primates groom each other, that maybe it was like a way to, like, sort of like, I don't know, like, I don't know, put stuff on people from your hands or something like that. I don't know. I couldn't figure out really what it might be. But after I realized that exposure to microbes in our environment is an absolute requisite for recovery from diabetes, from cystic fibrosis, from autism, from cancer, you need to cultivate a microbiome that is literally from the environment, not from products and supplements. I realized that our behavior as human animals in digging for roots and other things that grow in the ground and stuff like that, and touching trees and leaves and other fruits, literally the reason that our hands exude sweat and proteins and fats and carotene is to literally capture microbes from the dirt, from the soil, because they need it's one of the reasons. Like, one of the biggest side effects from diabetes is that you literally leak sugar through your sweat, and ammonia through your sweat. And, when my diabetic symptoms would flare up, and I would literally, like, my sweat would get so sticky that I couldn't go to sleep at night if I didn't take a shower first, because I'd be like laying in bed, like, really sticky. And I'd also smell ammonia in my sweat. That's literally food for microbes. Like, that I thought it was a side effect of diabetes. It's actually a recovery mechanism by our body that's meant to try to reestablish those microbes that you're so dependent on. That's why there are no diabetic gardeners. There's literally a study that shows, here, I'll actually look. I wonder if, actually, that might take too long. There's literally a study that investigated gardening's benefit on diabetics compared to other physical activity. And so and it was also a huge study. It was like, but it was a survey study, which also are not entirely sound. They're more of like, survey. I forget what their technical name is called, but survey studies are meant as more of a investigatory jumping off point to explore other more clinical research. But the question was that they asked like tens of thousands of people was, have you ever been diagnosed with diabetes? And then do you actively practice gardening, or do you do other physical activity? And they were like running and jogging and stuff like that is what they meant. And then, or do you not do any physical activity at all? And the study found that, and remember, it was like, have you ever been diagnosed with diabetes? The question wasn't, do you have diabetes right now? And do you also actively garden right now? It was, have you ever been diagnosed with diabetes? And so the highest percentile of diabetics came from the people that did no physical activity at all. And I think, I forget the percentages. I think it was like 30% of respondents did that. And then the next cohort was the people who exercised but did not garden. And no, Rima, yeah, that's the thing. Don't wash your hands after gardening. So then, but this is technically not safe, right? You can get, there are pathogenic soil microbes as well. You can get you can get harmful protozoa and amoeba and yeasts and dermatophytes. You can get harmful microbes from the environment too. That's why people get, fucking food poisoning when they go, eat at a restaurant that's shady and not following health code. That's why it's not like if you're very sick and you don't do anything else and you just go out and roll around in the dirt, you could probably get harmful microbes from doing that. Like I mentioned, this is why I'm talking about like how our skin exudes sugars and proteins and fats and keratin, because that cultivates commensal microbes, and then those commensal microbes help to protect us from the pathogenic ones. That's the whole strategy. That's why we need like healthy microbes in your gut. The healthy microbes in your gut and your mouth are the first line defense against the pathogenic ones that then end up causing disease. So all these people, everyone that takes like antibiotics to like wipe out your microbiome because they were told that there was like some murine study that of germ-free mice that lived longer. The thing is that like mice in like a germ-free study that live longer because their microbiome are wiped out, they're not constantly exposed to pathogenic microbes. You are. Every time you walk out that door and you go to the grocery store and you go to restaurants, or your family comes home and you kiss your husband who's been out, you get exposed. We get exposed to these microbes all the time. So you cannot you cannot use information like that out of context. You have to have the whole context. So yeah, but so this is not safe, but it can be useful though, because I've been doing this myself. So I'm speaking from experience. I can literally feel an increase in vitamin D production when I go out and I garden and I touch the soils of my pots that I have, and I rub it on my arms, and you can even put it on areas that you're sweating, and then don't wash your hands after. And like what I did specifically, like the first time I tried this, I didn't wash my hands, and then I was like eating some jelly beans after. And so every time I was eating a jelly bean, I was like probably getting some of the bacteria and yeast and fungi and archaea that are in the soil in my mouth. And then because you have to remember too, like this is an innate human behavior. Every single baby in the entire world, when you put them on the ground, they will immediately start shoving dirt in their face. It's like, it is such a ubiquitous human behavior. It is so funny because you're like, why the fuck are you eating dirt? But this is also why babies drool prolifically. The drool that babies produce is a potent and a highly effective filter for killing pathogens, but cultivating commensal microbes. And it's one of the primary strategies by which human babies establish a commensal microbiome, is literally by instinctually putting everything in their mouth. But the saliva is really protective. As adults, we don't have that. Especially if you're a very ill adult, you don't have prolific production of saliva, which is loaded with these immune and prebiotic factors to promote. Because like, you guys who've read my book and read the chapter on oral disease know that our saliva secretes proline residues literally to feed commensal microbes in between meals, because commensal microbes would die off between meals because they run out of the sugars and other nutrients that when we eat, we're not eating constantly, so they would die off. So our saliva literally cultivates commensal microbes by providing them proline, and then studies showed that microbes that have that access to proline don't produce acids, so then your teeth don't decay. And then acids are also required for, acids are great in your stomach, but not in your mouth. And then acids, excess acid production in the mouth because you become deficient in proline, or because your commensal microbes die off. That is what allows, what helps trigger oral disease. So the microbes like Porphyromonas gingivalis and Aggregatibacter oh my god, I can't say that word anymore. I literally memorized it so I could sound cool. Aggregatibacter Actomycetem comitans, and Treponema denticola, and all these other like oral pathogens. They take advantage of oral dysbiosis. So like. So it's not the same for a human. It's a human. It's not the same for an adult human as it is for like a infant who's more designed to do that. But the same underlying principle is true. So if you just go out and garden and interact with the natural environment, you swim in natural swimming holes, and you have sex with people, you expose yourself to all these environmental factors through which you pick up commensal microbes. If all the conditions on your body are true and restored, like carotene, like sugars, like protein, like fats, like stuff like that, then you'll get like the commensal microbes that are so necessary for our well-being, and then you'll have much more rapid recovery from the metabolic diseases that you have. But because that's why that's why I was talking about is like, it's not, you can't get any of this from a supplement. It's your dietary behaviors. It's your idea of what healthy eating is. It's constantly eating so that you maintain a normal blood sugar levels. So you raise your metabolic rate, getting sunshine every day so that you get sun exposure, and it lowers your melatonin production rate and raises your metabolic rate. It's your behaviors and your environment. This is one of the reasons like why I do this for work, right? Like I used to be a graphic artist, which is like, this animation you're all looking at, I did. And like the covers of my book, this is what I literally used to do for a living, was design and art and animation. And I loved it, but I was always working like 10, 12-hour days in an office, not getting sun exposure every day. And especially because I had cystic fibrosis, which I didn't know until I was 40, I was always tired and I was always fatigued. And I needed to like start taking care of my health and being able to like sleep in if I didn't get enough sleep. And I needed to be able to like go for walks during the day so I could get sunshine. And so I literally gave up a career where I was making like $130,000 a year to making like below poverty wages, just so I could literally take care of my health and I could structure my life in a way which satisfied those requisites, which also like, ended up supporting my ability to do research. And then because of all of you that actually have been supporting me financially and morally and helping spread my work and buying books and on my Patreon account, that has enabled me to experiment and do all of these things and actually do it for myself, and then realize that like, oh my God, like one of the reasons I'm so sick as a person was because I literally have spent most of my life separated from the natural environment. And a lot of people do inherently realize that, but nobody's ever known the exact science behind it. Like no one has ever known that like yeah, Mike. Yeah, no meat eating. So, which I never thought would be fun, and it is. And like someone was talking about bacon the other day, and it didn't even trigger my saliva. Like I usually even the mere mention of bacon would make me start salivating, and I just don't like. It's so fucking weird. It's like if you talk about sautéed collard greens, my saliva starts running. It's crazy. But yeah, anyway, so I realized that like, so because no one has ever known about the role of Thalmarchiota in human health and wellness before, right? Everyone thinks that you get B12 from meat, but that's not true. B12 comes from microbes, not meat. The meat that we eat that has B12, that B12 came from the Thalmarchiota that those animals had. And then that B12, like if you can eat meat and it does provide that benefit, but it's not where it originally comes from. It originally comes from Thalmarchiota archaea, which are in turn dependent on vitamin D. So you have to be getting sunshine in order to restore your commensal microbiome. And like, you can't do any of this through supplements or products or services. You have to literally design your life and your environment so that you can achieve these things. And we can also easily integrate these kinds of concepts into our modern, lifestyles. We just have to do it and build the environment. Like when cities build walkable communities, lots of landscaping, lots of parks, You know, you have immediate balcony access on the apartments that are there. You have, you know, grounds that you can, like, you know, take your dog out to potty immediately. Parks you can go walk around and lay in and play in. You have natural swimming holes. You know, there, like, a lot of places in Europe have huge rivers running through the city, and there are parts of those rivers where people gather on river beaches to go swim in the river and put their toes in the sand, or they go to the ocean, the shore beach, you know, the seashore, and play in that. But we don't, like in a big city, like America is so relatively young, and we don't have a lot of that in that lifestyle and infrastructure that comes from civilizations that are thousands of years old. You know, Native Americans that lived here before Europeans genocided them had it the best. They literally lived in communities that had immediate access to the environment. You literally walk out of your hut or your teepee and you're right on the dirt and soil, living right out in the environment, but you still have protection and shelter. And Native Americans were prolific farmers, but they didn't till the soil like Europeans did. So they had a much healthier nutritive profile in their food and diets. That's why they didn't have goiter. But then Europeans moved in, and then the entire northern states were called the goiter belt because everyone had goiter, because European farming practices of tilling the soil, and which kills the microbiome and evaporates off the halides in the soil, produces really poorly nutritive food. So anyway, so like in a big city, you know, you build in natural swimming pools. You build in, you know, by the way, if you don't know what these are, natural swimming pools are fucking great. You design the pool so that the swimming area is connected to a shallow, garden, basically, of water plants. And they, like, so the whole side of the pool is planted with like lilies and sedges, and, you know, and reeds and grasses and and you get all these flowers and dragonflies, and it's really beautiful. But also it cultivates a healthy microbiome, like all those plant roots consuming nitrates and ammonia out of the water, and then plant roots, you know, also share sugars with bacteria and other microbes in the soil, and Thaumarchiota, which lives naturally in that environment, also makes vitamin D and expresses vitamin D in their exudate. And so like if you so instead of going and swimming in a chlorine pool, which kills off your skin microbiome and your internal microbiome if you swallow water or absorb the chlorine, you then you actually collect, because if you swim in a natural pool instead of that, a chlorinated pool, you actually get exposure to these healthy microbes that we need and require. So we can easily build these into our environment. We just, you know, have to have political ability to do that and raise awareness and promote those kinds of things and projects, walkable communities, biking parks, you know, beaches, pools, all that kind of stuff. And gardening activities. You know, you can start a lot of places around the world. If you don't have access to your own like land to be able to garden, you can usually rent a little plot get your own parcel, your own what do they call it in Europe? Allotment. They call it an allotment in the UK. If you get your own you can rent a part where you can go plant vegetables and do that. So you do these behaviors. So the key to fixing your gut microbiome is not going out and buying supplements. It's literally going out and renting an allotment part and starting a garden and start gardening activities. You know, going to the park, laying in the grass, going to a river, pond, a stream, swimming in the water there. You doing these things that exposes you to the natural environment is how you get those microbes that thrive on human skin and in your gut. And yeah, and then don't wash your hands. Always wash your hands after pooping, but don't wash your hands after playing in healthy soil and gardening. You don't want the human fecal, because there can be bad microbes in your feces that can cause disease. But gardening, doing those kinds of activities. Yeah, and also too, if you have kids, like this is the thing. Like, we had a garden very briefly when I was growing up, and also, for a while I lived in Hawaii when I was a little kid, and I learned surfing. And if we had stayed in Hawaii, I would have been a healthy adult. I would have spontaneously recovered from my cystic fibrosis and autism if we had stayed in Hawaii, because I was like surfing, and we lived on the beach and had a really good diet. But then we moved to Utah, and then I basically just lived, this common industrialized lifestyle that so many of us in like the U.S. and other industrial societies lead, where I was just like indoors all the time. And there was one house we lived in later that we had a garden for a brief time, but we really didn't do much with it, and it failed because my parents didn't really have time or energy to do it. So, but like, this is one of the things that you have to do with your kids is like, when you're raising children, they should just be always having outdoor access. Like, if you have kids, having your own garden is like one of the best things you could do for them, where they're out helping you weed, and they get to just go out and pick fruit when it ripens, and they're in the soil and participating in that. You can, if you have enough money, you can like build a natural swimming pool. And also actually very specific, I want to be clear, like I've mentioned, like, these are not safe activities. These are not safe things to do, but they can be useful in the right circumstances. One of the primary routes that we can get parasites is actually from snails that are one of the primary intermediate hosts of parasitic lifestyle, of the parasitic life cycle, not lifestyle, life cycle. And like for instance, I think like one of the primary routes is like with birds. So a lot of birds eat snails, and then they get those parasites, then they poop out the parasites in the water. And the snails do also too release the parasites. So if for instance you have like a natural pool and there's like a whole ton of snails in it, like that could potentially increase parasite proliferation through the water. So you have to know all the science around this. But if you build like a really nice natural pool, it also invites wildlife. So the birds do eat snails, so they keep the population low. Prawns, actually, like freshwater prawns, eat freshwater mollusks. So if you made a natural pool, you could actually literally populate them with species of freshwater shrimp and things like that actually literally live in there, and fishes. And so those things all eat like parasites and parasite vectors. So if you did that, then it would be like, then you would make it like a safer activity or approach. But doing those kinds of things are like ideal for both recovery from illness and also like helping your family and your children and other people like that be healthy too, through access to those things. Like if you're like a rich person listening to this, like one of the best things you could do for your community if you wanted would be to like develop and cultivate and develop and make and give access to the public of like a giant natural swimming area, where like if there's some river or like that runs through your town, you could like you could like divert part of the river through a natural swimming hole that has like like a nice dock and like a lifeguard, so that people can go like swim in the water. And then the constant flow of the water through the area helps keep it clean. That kind of infrastructure and that kind of like strategy, like bike paths and parks and all those kinds of things. That's all like, that's how you get the microbes, not through supplements. So yeah, that was a really long diatribe. Let's see. I think I've gotten most everybody's questions. Oh yeah. So sorry if you guys don't know, like ask questions. Like if you want to know things from me specifically, if you're having problems with your health, if you need like clarity on something, this is when you ask. And one of the reasons I do this too is because like say for instance, if you email me a question about something that you're having a problem with, I have to take time out of my very busy day to personally address that. That's why I charge for coaching, because I don't have time to help everybody that needs it. And then if you sign up for coaching, though, that funds my work so that I can actually do these kinds of things. So, but I like doing streams and stuff like that and having my Patreon, because like if you ask me a question here or there, you're not the only one that gets that information. Like by answering that question, anyone who watches this will get that information. So it's a very efficient way to like help people and disseminate information and knowledge. So yeah, so this is like an opportunity for anyone who participates. Like, yeah, if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. But yeah, so can your hand palms indicate heart health? Oh, I don't know, Mike. Do people claim that? I've never heard that. Probably, not specifically, not in some like reflexology kind of way, probably not. But like, but the system, like I talk about in my book, like, there's not really, when we talk about diabetes, we talk about cystic fibrosis, we talk about cancer, we talk about hair loss, we talk about weight gain, we talk about sex hormones, reproductive function. Hi, Jamal. We don't, there is no such thing as separate diseases, really. What there really is either a state of health or a state of non-health. And ultimately, it's useful to categorize and study and know specifics about specific diseases, but actually, in reality, it's not a thing. Like, you're either healthy or you're not. And as soon as you start getting unhealthy, you start getting multiple diseases. Like in my case, I've had very fucking many diseases because I've had cystic fibrosis since I was a child. And, and I undiagnosed cystic fibrosis. I didn't even know I had it, but it was the reason why I got cancer so early and why my health imploded so early was because of the problems that cystic fibrosis causes in electrolyte transport and immune system function. And so because my immune system was not working well, anytime I'd get exposed to opportunistic pathogens, I would just get them. All the systems in the body are all connected to all the others. There's no such thing as like having cardiovascular disease, but nothing else, right? There's no such thing as having cancer, but not presenting with, like, some people claim that they like, oh, the cancer came out of nowhere. Oh, this just happened. Sorry, I need another drink of water real quick. Is the Kennedy woman, I can't remember her name. She's like a Kennedy person. She just got diagnosed with cancer. But she claims that she was really healthy and that there was nothing wrong with her and it came out of nowhere. And that's not fucking true. She was pregnant the whole time. She was apparently getting leukemia. And then she got diagnosed because of the blood work that she had after she delivered her baby. But I looked at pictures of her over the last like several years as like an investigatory, research into cancer development. And she does not look well. She thinks she's well because she's skinny. But being skinny is like one of like the primary, like cancer starts to eat at your tissues and causes like lean tissue atrophy, and you lose, like, especially if you have like harmful behavioral problems, like you exercise too much and you diet, especially women, like you lose the fat on your body. So she has like no breasts and no hips, and just like, and she thinks, I know exactly what she's talking about. She thinks that because she had really high stress hormones all the time, because she was probably dieting all the time, and she's like this renowned like athlete who's always doing these feats of athletic ability. Like, that is just, you're running on stress hormones all the time. You don't know what feeling healthy looks like because you were just pumped up with adrenaline and cortisol pretty much every moment of every single day, because of constantly dieting, because of doing marathons, because of training for marathons and stuff like that. And so no, you didn't look healthy. Like you looked skinny. That's not healthy. Being skinny is not healthy. being able to run a marathon does not mean you're healthy. Like, you can push through unhealth just because of, you know, sheer determination and high stress hormones, and then dieting drives up stress hormones too. Like, if you wake up in the morning and you don't eat food and you drink some coffee and you go out for a run, you can get such a humongous surge of adrenaline and cortisol from that behavior that you think you have lots of energy, because stress hormones are steroids. They pump you up and they make you feel like you have energy. But in reality, you don't have energy. That literally the energy that is being used to fuel your activity at that time is coming from catabolism of your own body, of your fucking of your muscles and your fat stores. It's not coming from like the air because you didn't fucking eat anything. And so like so people like that. So you don't have, there's no such thing as like having a disease in isolation. You can so it does present as other external, like you can correlate like conditions of the hands or the feet or, you know, or the face or your hair with other things that you're having. And absolutely, like there's correlation there. But I don't know specifically about like the palms, but like yeah. I mean, cardiovascular, like when you start having libido problems, that's like one of the a real serious sign of cardiovascular disease, because the genitals are directly connected to the cardiovascular system. So when you start being able to, when you start losing your erections, and you know, women get erections too. I'm not only talking about men. Their erections are just much smaller. when you start being unable to have erections, or your erections don't last very long, that's always like signs of beginning or advanced cardiovascular disease, because literally they are literally connected to your cardiovascular system. So yeah, so I like reproductive health is actually like a much better correlate to cardiovascular health probably than your palms. Yeah, but other people, like people, if you present with like dry palms and dry feet, and like dry skin, that's a primary symptom of fat malabsorption. Everybody thinks that hydration of the skin is achieved through water, and that's not true. Water does make it hydrated, but if you don't have fat in your skin, that water evaporates real easily. So symptoms of dry palms and heels and dry skin in general is always a symptom of fat malabsorption. And you guys know the latest version of my book that I released has the most information now on reversing fat malabsorption than it ever has, preventing fat saponification in the gut. This is a new thing I discovered. Like nobody recognizes the role of fat saponification in the gut as a factor in impairing fat absorption. Microbes cause fats to turn into soap in your gut when you eat the fats. That's why a low-fat diet very often benefits people, because if you avoid the fat, you prevent the saponification. But the problem is that our hormones are also made of fats. So when you do low-fat diets, you actually also impair your hormone production. So the solution to that isn't to avoid fat; it's actually to restore your ability to digest fat, just like restoring your ability to digest plants is how you fix those problems, not avoiding plant foods. So yeah, so dry palms and dry feet and those kinds of things can also be symptoms of like fat malabsorption, which then, yes, Mike, also affects your cardiovascular health, because cardiovascular health is also highly dependent on hormone production too. Especially like the mineralocorticoids and stuff like that, and and obviously like pregnenolone and things like that too. So, yeah. Oh, my mouth is so dry today. Jamal, you asked, can I explain the confusion about the Randall cycle? Why we don't need to separate carbs and fats? Yes. The idea that you can willfully manipulate the Randall cycle is a delusion born of human desire for control over mortality. You can't do that. If your body is going to engage the Randall cycle, it's going to engage the Randall cycle whether you like it or not. just if you're eating carbs or you're eating fats, that's not going to happen. Like, it is true that circulating fatty acids can lower or interfere or inhibit oxidation of carbohydrate. But that if that's happening to you, it's because you're sick and you're infected with, you're colonized by opportunistic microbes that are interfering with your ability to oxidize carbohydrate or properly metabolize fatty acids. One of the primary reasons that our body increases the circulation of free fatty acids during metabolic disease is because free fatty acids are actually antibiotic. They actually kill microbes. So circulating fatty acids through the cardiovascular system is an adaptation to colonization by opportunistic microbes that have accessed the bloodstream. So it's not like, the Randle cycle isn't happening in your body because you had fats and you didn't separate your carbs and fats. It's actually happening because your body's trying to eradicate microbes that have colonized your cardiovascular system through your oral disease. Because the oral opportunistic microbes obtain access to the cardiovascular system through your mouth. So, and you can't just like control that by just like separating fats and carbs. Like, that just isn't a thing. And then also too, but you can benefit. Like, so for instance, if you're separating fats and carbs, like what happens is you're probably like, like I mentioned earlier, like fats can be saponified in the gut by opportunistic microbes. And so if you separate fats and carbs, like you're eating your carbs separately from your fats, having just a big meal of carbohydrate is really great for you. And it really helps promote your microbes in your gut. But if you combine fats and carbs and you're experiencing saponification of fats in the gut, then what happens is the presence of the fats used by opportunistic microbes by creating biosoaps then disturbs your commensal microbiome. So then you don't benefit as well from the carbs. Do you see what I'm saying? So the benefit of doing that isn't for the stated reason. It's for something completely different that people don't know about because the science hasn't existed before. So I believe that purposeful saponification of fats by opportunistic microbes is actually one of the primary strategies by which opportunistic microbes colonize the gut and derange the commensal microbiome and remove the protective mucosal layer of mucosal tissue. So actually fixing and reversing saponification, like I talked about in, was it the last update or the one before that? It was the one before, or I don't know which one, I forget. But in one of my last updates, I added all this information to like the chapters on gut health and immunity and stuff like that. So actually when you're doing that, and if you benefit from that, it's not because you hacked the Randle cycle. it's because you're literally actually like affecting the pattern of saponification in the gut from microbes. So yeah. Oh, no, sorry, Rima. I didn't say no supplements. I often recommend supplements. It's just that they're not the way to get better. I use supplements all the time. They're just not how you get better. You get better through changing your diet and behaviors in your environment. And then supplements just complement that. But everybody, and it's totally understandable, right, guys? Like life is hard. Health is hard. Disease is scary. Death is scary. I get it. And everybody, we all want it to be easy, but the problem is that it's not. You can't just take a supplement and get better. It doesn't work like that. So, but I do use supplements. It's not not no supplements. Just they're just not the primary way to get better. And trinil made from polyphenols. Well, I don't have time to do that right now. But that probably just sounds like bullshit. I mean, good, but probably. Oh, actually, no. Somebody asked me about that before. Somebody has it. I have looked that up. Yeah, the I don't know how to say the Quebracho, the tannin that's in horse chestnut and that Quebracho thing. Yeah, that's great. But the thing is that it's just you can have tannin from anything. It's not going to be great from that. But no to the peppermint. Actually, like I talk about specifically in my chapter on oral disease, that menthol that makes peppermint, mint, spearmint, toothpaste, mouthwash, it's actually very bad for your oral tissues. It neutralizes the polarity defense that we have against that repels pathogens off of the surface of your mucosal tissue. That can be really bad, and it not only does that, but it also like so-called essential fatty acids, or essential. Sorry, is that what they're called? It's not fatty acids. Essential. Sorry. Oh my god. Essential oils. So-called essential oils, and like peppermints and things like that. They're very powerful depolarizing agents, and they can literally actually fuck up your nervous system. Do not use those. You can, if you want to have peppermint candy at Christmas, totally fine. But like regularly exposing yourself to like if you drink peppermint tea all the time, or you brush your teeth with toothpaste with menthol containing toothpaste and mouthwashes and stuff like that, you are actively destroying your cellular polarity biological functions. So I would say not to use that specifically because it contains peppermint. But also, Rima, like just eat horse chestnuts. Like you don't have to take a supplement. Like have some. Oh wait, actually, can you eat horse chestnuts? I don't know if you can. That might be one of those plants that's like called a chestnut, but not actually a chestnut. I don't know much about horse chestnuts to recommend it. But anyway, but because you have normal chestnuts, like have nuts, have hazelnuts, have Indian bay leaf tea. Put bay laurel in your soup. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you don't need to buy these supplements. They don't work. You have to have a diet that achieves all of these requisites. You have to have tannin in all of the meals you eat and all of the foods that you drink. So incorporate teas into that. Incorporate nuts and the skins of nuts. Lots and lots of fruits. Fruits that are especially astringent, because these astringent fruits are not commonly sold commercially because they're very difficult to grow and distribute. But like aronia, which are also called choke berry, choke cherries, which are a variant of cherry, and they're a part of the prunus family. Lingonberry, gooseberries, sloe, which are also called thornberry. There's lots and lots. The berries and fruits that are just really highly astringent, those are tannins, and those are tannins that are even more bioavailable than the tannin that's like in like tea and stuff like that. So they can be very effective. Like whenever I eat chokeberry jelly, it literally wipes out H. pylori in my gut for months at a time. I'm being hyperbolic. It probably wasn't months. It was probably like a month and a half. And I ate a huge serving. Like I got like this like chokeberry jam. It's really hard to find. So you don't have to be dependent. You literally don't use that one. You can use any others that you find. But like I literally got this jam, and I literally just got a spoon and ate the whole thing. It wasn't a big jar. It was probably like 8 ounces of it. And I didn't have any belching for like a month and a half after that. And then it slowly started to come back. But like that's like a benefit. That's like an example of that. So rather than trying to achieve it through supplements, like just change your diet, get foods, incorporate these leaves and other strategies into it. And because the thing is that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. We're human animals. We evolved in a very specific environmental niche, which includes microbes and like dirt and plants and soil and also the foods that we eat. And so if your regular daily diet does not contain these things, then it doesn't matter what supplements you take. It's just not going to work. So you have so if you actively use like foods and stuff in your meals and snacks and and things that you have, that will be more effective for you than buying an expensive supplement that you probably don't even need anyway. So, Mike, a new study on orange juice. Drinking orange juice daily may fine-tune genes tied to cardiovascular wellness. Yeah. I mean, orange juice is really high in lots of things that are great for us. Carotene, vitamin C, citric acid. citric acid is like, our own body produces citric acid, which performs a lot of services for the body, especially like helping metabolize calcium properly. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But you also don't need orange juice. That's probably a study like that and an article that promotes it is probably being promoted by the orange juice industry. You can use any fruits. You can use pineapple. You can use tangerines. You can use apple juice. You can use. Apple juice apple juice is really high in malic acid, which is equally as delicious and healthful as citric acid. So you can use any. But the whole thing is like fruit every day. Lots of fruit, people. You cannot go wrong with fruit. Lots of fruit every single day, as much as you can find, as much as you can eat. Not only fruit. You do not want to be fruitarian. That's bad. Don't be pedantic. Don't be extremist. Be reasonable and rational. But as much fruit every day as you possibly have access to. And this again goes back to gardening. Fruit is expensive. Fruit is hard to come by. I'm literally right now growing choke cherries on my balcony because I cannot find them to purchase very often. So if you grow your own plants, and guys, oh my God, you have no idea how much food plants produce. Just mountains of food. Like literally like if you plant like raspberries or choke cherries or peaches, like if you have a single peach tree, your peach tree will probably produce like 100 fucking peaches over the course of like 3 or 4 months at the end of the summer. Plants make so much food. It's ridiculous. And so you can just you can use that for your own benefit, right? You can grow tomatoes. Tomatoes just produce, and you can grow your own cucumbers and melons. You know how fucking big watermelons are, and they can even last for a long time. If you have space and you grow watermelons all summer, you grow several of them, and then you eat watermelon for this entire summer and fall. That's so much nutrition, is so much food, is so much therapy. Yeah. But because the thing is, it's so hard. It is hard to design our lives to do this because of the way that we live now and the way society is structured. But it doesn't matter. Like our bodies have not evolved to live in this environment. Our bodies are still designed to be living like in the forest, getting sun every day with generous access to fruit and nuts and roots. And if you don't provide that, and exposure to the soil, and so if you don't provide that for your body, you will never get better. And yeah. Okay, so Lena, you asked 2 questions. Can I add anything to water or just drink it straight? Well, okay, so Lena, there's nothing wrong with drinking pure water as long as there is no food in your stomach. If you've just eaten a meal, do not drink just pure water unless you're choking, right? Like don't do that. If you're choking and you need to drink, just do it. But just generally, drinking water between meals, totally great. But if you with meals, it should always be something like tea, or wine, or coffee isn't high enough in tannin to fully protect your protein if you're very sick. But if you're not very sick, having a coffee with dinner is great too. But generally you should avoid pure water if there's food in your stomach. But totally drink it otherwise. And there's also other information in my book that I recently released, also the types of water. Like, never use reverse osmosis filters. They're just the worst thing you can do for your health. Filtered water, if it's a gentle carbon filter, is probably okay. But also like spring water, and you can make your own silicone water. Like all these things that I talk about in my book are like really useful also for water. And then also using water as a vehicle for supplement administration is often required. Most of us just pop pills and hope that we get okay. And that's not how that works either. Most things that you want to supplement need to be hydrated. They need to be acidified. They need to be dissolved in water to actually benefit from them. And so actually like even using your drinking water or like coffee and tea as vehicles for administering those things is way more effective than just like popping a pill, and you have to account for that. Okay. And then yes. So can you cure asexuality? Absolutely. So, obviously everybody knows I'm fucking gay. I'm LGBT. Asexuality is a very common and normal and accepted part of the LGBT. I love right-wingers call us the alphabet mafia. I think it's so cute. Asexuality is part of that. Like, so when you do the number, not the numbers, the acronym is just a shortcut for referring to everybody that we're talking about when we talk about people with who are differently gendered. So you've got like lesbian, gay, transgender, intersex, asexual, and then there's like others too. But asexuality is always actually a problem of like dysfunctional hormone activity. Actually, it's not, asexuality isn't the same thing as like being gay or being transgender or being lesbian or whatever. It's actually more of a biological problem where your hormones are just dysregulated. And so, yeah, you can cure it. All you have to do is like restore. And because a lot of people also who have that condition, and I get so fucking irritated at this too, because like a lot of people who are gay, lesbian, transgender, etc., we're mostly all on the left politically because the right wing is really awful to us. There are a lot of right wingers though who are LGBTQ. But they're also kind of weird. But the thing is people on the left very often pride themselves on supporting science and being secular and being rationally minded. And you guys are not ever fucking that at all. Like, people on the left, like, you're not a scientist just because you believe in science. Science isn't something you believe in. It's something you practice. And when you're out there supporting like the CDC just because it's an institution, or the government just because they're an institution, because they don't do science. The government, especially our government, does capitalism. That is not science. That is exploitation of people's disease and metabolic conditions for profit. That isn't science. It's completely different than science. Vaccines are necessary, but vaccines can have side effects too. And when you're just like, oh, we believe in vaccination, like, you're a stupid fucking idiot, because it doesn't, like, just like I was just talking about how like soil exposure is not safe, but it can be useful. Vaccines also are not safe. They are very often good for you and necessary to curb disease. But when you just out of hand dismiss people that have had problems and side effects from vaccination, you're just being a fucking imbecile, right? You're the ostrich with its head in the sand who's just supporting institutionalism for the sake of it. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I have coached people who have come to me for help for health problems, and they told me, they're like, I'm pro-vaccination, and I believe in vaccination and it's necessary, but my child did present with autistic symptoms around the time that they got vaccinated. And I completely believe them. They are not anti-vaxxers. They are pro-vaccination. And I explain this in my book, that autism, I'm fucking autistic. It occurs from extreme derangement of the gut microbiome when you're a child. Essentially, all adults end up getting autism when you age, and you get cystic fibrosis when you age too. All the symptoms of aging, like pulmonary disease, like immune dysfunction, like mental impairment, autism and cystic fibrosis are those same problems, but occurring when you're a child. instead of when you're old. And so then it disrupts your body's ability to develop and function the way that most other people's do, because of the disruption to the microbiome, like what occurs when you age and what causes aging. So like, you know, excuse me. Oh, there's my cough. Which is a symptom of cystic fibrosis, because my lungs are fucking colonized by Pseudomonas aeruginosa because of poor immune function. And you know, I used to cough like every 10 minutes. When I was at my worst, I was coughing constantly. I coughed so much that I would wake myself up from a dead sleep coughing. And because one of the problems that when you have cystic fibrosis, you end up having to have a lung transplant eventually, because of the damage that the chronic immune reaction does to the lungs. And the biggest cause of death, of mortality with people that have cystic fibrosis, is after a lung transplant. And then they need the lung transplant anyway, because their lungs just stop working. And, you know, mine almost did. And luckily, like, I was able to recover quite a bit because of Ray-Pete and all of the science that I do, and the investigation into immune function and CFTR channel. Like cystic fibrosis is wrongly thought to be a genetic disease, but a full third of people that have cystic fibrosis do not have the supposed mutation that is attributed to cystic fibrosis. So that just completely invalidates it being a genetic disease outright, just fully outright. You can't have a genetic disease where like a third of the people don't have the genes for the disease. Like that's just not how that's not how logic works. That's not how reality works. And instead, and then later I found that, guess what? There's a parasite called Trichomonas that colonizes human mucosal tissue that everyone has, that disables the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. And if a parasite does that, and everyone fucking has a parasite because they're transmitted through exchange of saliva and mucus and sneezing and sex. And one species of Trichomonas is the most commonly sexually transmitted disease, except for herpes. Trichomonas vaginalis is the most transmitted sexual disease. And even though I, have been in the gay community since I was 20 years old, and I have been educated about sexual diseases ever since I was 20 years old, I knew, we were told about HIV and herpes and syphilis, and we were all and chlamydia and gonorrhea, and you can get tested. And because we have clinics, because of the HIV crisis, there were these wonderful people that established free clinics for sexual health care. You can go get tested for those all the time that you want. Not once did anyone ever talk about Trichomonas. It's the most sexually transmitted disease in most countries. In the US, the most transmitted is herpes. And I'd never heard about that. And Trichomonas just so happens to inactivate the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. Like, what the fuck, right? Like, cystic fibrosis is not a genetic disease. The genetic component to most of those diseases and research is from inherent prejudice and bias in the medical system, which has a long history of blaming patients for their own disease, saying it's hereditary. Before scientists knew anything about diseases, they would just blame the mom. They would always say, like, oh, your mother had a weak constitution. They would literally, this is how medicine worked for the longest time. And it still works that way too. It's not genetic. But anyway, I am really ranting. But anyway, so this goes back, because we were talking about asexuality. So like people, people, leftists, very often want to be like, no, it's like inherent to, and blah blah blah, and like for instance, bigoted right wingers very often claim that sexuality is biological, therefore trans people are not legitimate. The problem is they're both right and wrong. Sexuality is biological, and transgender people are biologically transgender. Yes, it is biological. and that's why trans people exist is literally because sex is biological. Trans people are biologically transsexual. They just don't understand what transsexuality is, so they bigotedly try to, and they're also are obviously like afraid of things they don't understand. They persecute and hurt trans people because of their own fear and misunderstanding about biology. But so then people on the left, we do the fucking same thing over here too, though, because we go like, oh, we believe in science, and you just blanketly support institutions that have a long history of exploitation and harm. Our government literally forcibly has forcibly sterilized populations of people that people in the government at the time did not like. Native Americans, Black people, mentally impaired people. They would literally forcibly sterilize them. So you cannot blame people for being suspicious of vaccines or disease deniers. It is understandable that humans do this because other humans do other heinous shit too. So anyway, so this is just a really long way of explaining that asexuality it really isn't the same thing as being gay or transgender. It is most often a case of hypogonadism, where your gonads are not functioning properly, and most often can be reversed. It can be fixed. If for instance, we say the term asexuality, but when there used to be eunuchs, when they would literally castrate young men, which was its own heinous, awful thing. A eunuch is basically asexual because they don't have gonads. They can't really get sexual arousal because sexual arousal is achieved through sex hormones. Asexual, and because we have these environments and diets that promote disease the way that so prolifically like it does, we easily get into environments where people become asexual literally just because your gonads are not able to produce sex hormones properly. So all you have to do to reduce. So what I'm saying is that no, somebody that's literally missing a male that is missing his testicles would not be able to cure asexuality, or and also just again to get ahead of people that might have a problem with this. I'm not saying that I'm not you don't need testicles or a penis to be a male. That's the whole point of transgender people, is that transgender people have a body which is mismatched from their innate gender identity, which is formed by the brain. The brain is the primary sexual organ of the body, not your genitals. Right-wing people laugh and tell us that you're confused. A woman has a vagina and a man has a penis, and they sound like fucking kindergartners when they say that. But the thing is that you don't think. I mean, men. It's comically said that men think with their penis, but you don't actually think with your penis, right? Who you are is your brain. To other people, you might appear male or female because you have a penis or a vagina, but for yourself, who you are is in your head. It's part of your brain, and the brain is as much of an organ that is developed in the womb during gestation as any other part of the body. So anyway, so asexuality though is usually a product of hypogonadism, where your body isn't producing much sex hormones, and that could be from a problem where you're missing your gonads or something, or some other problem like that. But usually, very very often, it's really actually just because maybe you don't get like for instance yeah, and I'm sorry this is also taking a long time. I didn't mean for it to take this long. For instance, because it's a very good question, Lena. That's why I'm doing this. So, for instance, a lot of people don't understand that melatonin inhibits sex hormones, and that children are asexual. Their sex organs don't develop until you hit puberty, that is largely achieved through higher production of melatonin throughout your childhood. Melatonin suppresses sex hormone production. So, and then there's other factors though, also too, like, so, and then when you hit puberty, your melatonin production falls so that your sex hormone production kicks in, and you go through adolescence and you become a full-blown adult with secondary sex characteristics. But also, so anything also that raises melatonin excessively also inhibits sex hormone production. So, sun exposure lowers melatonin production, while chronic absence of sun exposure raises melatonin. So a lot of a lot of asexual people also do present with muted secondary sex characteristics, which also, by the way, is completely fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it is also evidence of the underlying mechanism of why you are in the first place. And a lot of human beings nowadays, and this is very common too with this is a huge problem for lots of young people today, is that chronic sunlight deficiency so powerfully hurts and destroys your body. If you're somebody who's inside all day long and you don't go outside, it results in excessive melatonin production that literally suppresses your secondary sex characteristics. So especially guys who are indoors, and I love gaming. I play video games all the time. But if you're indoors playing video games all the time and you just don't go outside and you don't get sun exposure and you don't garden and you don't lay in the grass and you don't go for walks and you don't tan, your melatonin is so high that it's literally suppressing your testosterone production. You have to have sun exposure every single day. And like I talk about in my book, minimum of 2 hours. And if you get less than 2 hours of sun exposure a day, you have a deficiency of sun exposure. But don't get sunburn. Sunburn is bad. So do the sun exposure at times a day when you don't risk sunburn because also don't use sunblock. I mean, use sunblock if you're going somewhere in the sun for a long period of time, but don't generally use sunblock. Get your sun exposure at times a day that it's safer, because we need that much sun exposure to suppress your melatonin levels to regulate the normal human endocrine system that has evolved in an environment in which it expects daily generous sun exposure. As evolutionary human beings, we didn't wear clothes, we didn't live indoors, we didn't have cars, we didn't work inside all day long. We literally were outside under the sunshine most of the time during the day, every single day of our lives. So you have to replicate that environment in order for your physiology to be healthy. And since melatonin suppresses sex hormones, if you have a life where you're always indoors, it causes hypogonadism. It can contribute to asexual conditions, and other things like that. And then also too, because depression arises from deficiency of dopamine, like I talk about in my book, in my chapter on depression, which also requires sun exposure to reverse, light exposure to reverse. When we're doing this too, we also feel depressed all the time. And also too, testosterone is not just a hormone of sex. It also is literally a hormone of motivation. And it's not, and I'm talking about women too, this is not a male thing. Hormones do not have gender. Hormones have specific biological functions, and their ratio to each other and their amounts is what creates gender, not the hormone itself. Like, estrogen is not a female hormone. Estrogen is a hormone of growth. And the combination of high estrogen and high progesterone creates femininity, while high androgens and low estrogen create masculinity. But testosterone is not a male hormone, and estrogen is not a female hormone. It is their ratio and amounts to each other that causes gender to occur. So even in women, if you have a sun exposure, you have low testosterone, and testosterone also is a hormone of motivation that makes you inspired to do things and to be happy and to not happy. Dopamine is the happiness hormone, but literally like doing things, like going, like if you just don't want to go outside and you don't want to do anything and you feel hopeless about your future and like nothing ever works out well, you have low testosterone. testosterone, and it's probably in both males and females, and it's probably because you are not getting out into the environment sufficiently enough to get sun exposure. By the way, my feed is doing something weird and the wheel is spinning on YouTube. Is the stream still up? Can you guys reply if it is, if you can still hear me? Now I'm starting to talk too long. Now my voice is really drying out. I'm going to keep talking like you guys can still hear me, so hopefully. Oh, okay, good. Okay. The actual feed just dropped for myself, but yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, so Lena, yes. So like sorry. And there's this other thing too, is also it is well known that that testicles are on the outside of a human male body because of temperature regulation that is required for sperm production. But one of the other reasons that testicles are on the outside of the body and the scrotal skin is so thin is because light exposure also regulates testicle function, not just temperature. So when you're younger and you're very healthy, you really don't need very much light exposure to the testicles to have normal testosterone levels. But this is also why ovaries are on the inside of the body, is because removing the ovaries from that temperature factor and removing them from light increases estrogen production. Like literally, I think that you could, like literally, if you were transgender and if you're a transgender female, don't do this. I mean, obviously you can't do this yourself, but like in the future, like doctors that give gender confirmation treatment to people that are transgender, you probably could move the testicles inside of the body somehow, and they would produce more estrogen because they wouldn't be exposed. They'd be exposed to higher temperature and less light. And then males, when you have testicles outside of your body, part of you got to be naked in the sunshine. You literally have to. And then the right has made this into a ridiculous thing when they started calling it testicle tanning. And there's that fucking stupid Tucker Carlson movie with the guy that's standing naked in front of a red light device. Oh my fucking God. Like, you guys are so embarrassing. This is so dumb. Like, just go in the sun. Like, literally just go sunbathe. Like, go to a nude beach. Just go lay out on the beach and take your clothes off and get sunshine on your balls, because like, and I always forget. I always bring it up. You guys always help me. The baseball player who's really hot, who really started this like quite a few years ago. He's like fucking ripped and just like so hot. And he was like, yeah, like I feel better. You have to get sunlight on your boys regularly. It's sunlight. It is red light, but it's also sunlight. UV light exposure increases testosterone production. So anyway, so like asexuality, hypogonadism, like all these problems literally are things that you can reverse because they are regulated by sex hormones. So, and also too, like if you are in some situation where, for instance, you don't have testicles, but you identify as male, this is why, like, you know, supplement taking, this is how like trans men treat their gender identity, is by injecting testosterone. And also too, a lot of transgender men don't understand that that testosterone is more complicated than just testosterone. You also need DHEA, which is a weak androgen, and you also need DHT, dihydrotestosterone, which is the active form of testosterone. And a lot of transgender men don't take dihydrotestosterone because they've heard that it contributes to hair loss, which is a widely accepted but incorrect a theory about oh my God, I really have been talking for so long, my voice is really drying out. Is an incorrect theory about what causes male pattern hair loss. It is not DHT. And then because also, and I'm really ranting and going off in tangents here, but it's just so important stuff. A lot of people, especially men, take medicines to treat hair loss that lower your DHT. Like, you might as well just cut off your balls. Like, if you don't want to have male pattern hair loss, just get castrated. You know, you'll keep your hair. If you think that DHT is a cause of hair loss, because it absolutely is not. Hair loss is caused by dysregulation of the kynurenine pathway for various reasons, like I talk about in my book. So people who take finasteride very often have a very difficult time being lean, having sinewy muscles, having low body fat. You see it. There's all these streamers that are on finasteride and they complain and then they start gaining weight and they talk about how hard it is to lose weight. It's because you're on fucking finasteride that reduces maleness because it reduces DHT, which is the primary active male hormone. So how can you have male, and as a dude with cystic fibrosis, I, for my entire life, have had low DHT because that's actually because a common complication of cystic fibrosis is poor digestion of fat and fat-soluble nutrients, which are required to make cholesterol, which are required to make hormones like testosterone. So I've had low testosterone my whole life because of having cystic fibrosis. And I still started losing my hair, when I was in my 30s because of metabolic disease. Hair loss is a metabolic disease, and you just reverse the metabolic disease, and then you can keep your hair. I haven't told you guys this, I don't think. I lost a bit of hair after having COVID, and I thought that I thought it was probably, I started shedding and for the first time in like years, and I was really confused about what it was, and I couldn't really pinpoint it. And I thought it was maybe my apartment because I've got tinted windows, or I thought it was like eating legumes a lot. But what I realized, it was probably a combination of eating legumes and having had COVID, because it happened right after getting COVID. And it's been growing back though. Yeah, like anyway, you're like it's a metabolic disease. It is not because you produce testosterone. Like DHT is part of our natural biology. It's a part of our health. It's like if DHT caused hair loss, young men wouldn't have hair. Fucking idiots. Like Jesus fucking Christ. This stuff is not hard. Anyway. Okay. Oh, you guys have asked. I've been ranting so long I wasn't even looking at the questions. Okay. Mike, you asked before about fatigue and tried bamboo, lemon, silicon B1, but it is not improved. What? Well, okay. Well, Mike, you said you tried bamboo, lemon, silicon. That's not really what my protocol is. So I would recommend revisiting the new chapter on cancer, which has a lot more explanation. Like making silicone water could help you a lot. And that's discussed in there. And like having silicone daily in your tea. Like you can't, like Mike, you can't just like make a concoction of lemon and bamboo and take it and expect your fatigue to disappear. That's not how that works. It's like what you have to do is you have to achieve silicon repletion, which is through minimizing ammonia, resolving ammonia producers, and using those silicic acid treatments regularly and consistently can better likely help to replete your mitochondrial silicon, but will not necessarily do that, right? If the factors that cause its depletion are still active. So it's not just that. You can't just take that and expect results. What you have to achieve is reversing mitochondrial silicon loss. And so these are strategies to do that, but they have to be successful, right? So if you address all those factors that cause its loss, then you will see improvement. So, and it's all about acidification of dietary silicon and restoring acidification of the gut. So, oh, Mike, you said you had a bruise on your hand. Oh, yeah. Bruising easily, but so it wouldn't really be on your hand. I mean, it wouldn't matter that it's on your hand. Bruising can easily reflect like vitamin K deficiency and other problems like with blood flow. So it could be cardiac related, but having bruising usually indicates you're less likely to clot and have like a stroke or aneurysms, aneurysm is a leak of blood, isn't it? But bruising is because you don't coagulate, so that would reduce your blood clotting, not increasing it. So I hope that makes sense. Um, Jamal, everybody you know grows fruit has trouble storing it or finding people to give it away. Oh yeah, because we were talking about like how much food plants produce, because they fucking produce a shit ton of food. Food should not be as expensive as it is, and it's really hard to be a farmer too. But like if you are a farmer and you do it for business, like if you did regenerative market gardening and you produce like from heirloom varieties of plants, you'd make a killing. You'd have a really easy time maintaining an income because that does require like a lot of infrastructure and expertise that people would have trouble doing. But for everybody else, for all of us else, like growing your own food is so it saves you so much money, and you literally produce better quality, more nutritive food than what you can get at the grocery store. So, yeah. Watermelon jerky. Does dehydrating fruits have any problems? Probably not. Dehydrating food. Yeah, fruit. Like, oh yeah. So fruit can be dried, frozen, fresh, jammed, juiced, jellied, like just literally any way you can get it. And from lots of different fruits. Don't get stuck on just one. A lot of people do that. You think it's hard, so you find like one thing and then you only eat that. That's not going to help you. Get like you need watermelon, you need cucumbers, you need cucurbits, squashes, pumpkins, tomatoes. Those are fruits. Yeah, branch out. Dried, fresh, frozen, all of that. Karl Popper defended institutions in his that word work. Are you familiar with his criticisms of populism? I am not. You are much more of a philosopher than I am, Mike. I'm not ever familiar with that stuff that you bring up. Yeah, sorry. I don't have an opinion on that. Yay, exciting. You were asexual. You weren't asexual when you were younger, but now in your 30s. Oh, you're only in your 30s. Yeah, Lena. So yeah, especially like, yeah, if you're only in your 30s, yeah, you should not have a low libido. That's from probably dietary stress, not getting enough sunshine. If you're male, like not getting sunlight on your balls regularly, and obviously too, you can get arrested for exposing yourself to people. So don't do that. But like if you have if you have a window that's just not north facing any of the other directions, and the sunlight comes in from that window, just get naked in front of it. Do that, but not not through glass though. Like glass blocks UVB light, and you need that for vitamin D, but so you won't get vitamin D from exposure through light from glass, but light from glass on your balls will help still raise your testosterone, even if it's through glass. So there's just that variant, or that variable factor. Jamal, have I seen the studies that correlate with VO2 max with longevity? No, I don't, and I don't know what VO2 is actually. Even marginal increases of VO2 at already levels correlate with increased longevity. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what VO2 is. I guess I could look it up real quick. VO2 max. It's your oxygen. It's the rate of your oxygen consumption. Yeah. Oh, actually, well, because Jamal, that's that's one of my discoveries, that boron is the transport mechanism for oxygen from hemoglobin to your mitochondria. A lot of people don't know about this. Nobody knows about this because it's something I discovered. No one yet has investigated how oxygen gets from hemoglobin to mitochondria. It can't just diffuse through cells, because the oxygen would fucking oxidize everything it touches on its way there. It has to be transported. And so no one's even investigated, let alone know what factor it is. But when you take boron, or you get exposed to boron, it increases metabolic respiration rate. So I believe that the chaperone for oxygen from your bloodstream after release by hemoglobin, because then you can have problems with you can be anemic and have low hemoglobin, so that would be a problem. But if you have normal hemoglobin, you release oxygen from the red blood cells, it gets to your mitochondria via boron, and then that sustains your respiratory ability. But also too, just general mitochondrial function also affects how much oxygen you consume. and during exercise and exertion. So when you have well functioning mitochondria, you're going to live longer, because mitochondria are the most efficient way of producing energy in our body. And so sustaining your mitochondria. And this is also, it's really funny because all the people that think carotene and vitamin A are bad for you, and to be clear, supplemental vitamin, sorry, did I say vitamin K? No, I said vitamin A. So supplemental carotene and supplemental vitamin A are bad for you. Do not supplement them ever. They are not good to supplement. But if you're avoiding carotene because of that same idea, you're fucked. because vitamin A, endogenously produced in our body, is required for mitochondrial biogenesis. So everyone that is avoiding carotene and carrots and high carotene foods, you will then end up developing mitochondrial dysfunction due to low mitochondrial density in your body. And then there's the other discovery that I made, that carotene suppresses hydrogen sulfide malodors, and so everyone that avoids carotene also probably just has the most rank shit that you could imagine. Oh, because also, if you guys don't know, like, your shit shouldn't smell. Like, honestly, like, it's crazy. It's fucking insane, and I can't believe I'm the one that like discovering this shit. But like, your shit literally should not smell bad. If your shit and farts and your mouth and your breath smell bad, that is hydrogen sulfide malodors that inhibit your immune system and deplete your sulfur stores. So, and yes, hydrogen sulfide is sulfur. And people think, there are people that think that hydrogen sulfide production in the gut is a source of sulfur, and it's not. It can be neutralized by the body and converted back into sulfur, but the fact that it's being produced into hydrogen sulfide at all anyway indicates microbes stealing your dietary and biological sulfur for their own purposes to cause disease. It's not the source of sulfur. It's so dumb. But yeah, anyway, mitochondrial function would explain VO2 function. So, Mike, curious about thoughts on incel community's transmaxing. I don't know what the transmax. I know what looks maxing is. I don't know what transmaxing is. Is that where they're like trying to? Is that where they're like they're always like really hardcore anti-transing, trying to like identify trans people? Incel people, like people who think that they're incels, you just have low sex hormone production. You just need to get out in the sunshine. If you expose your testicles to the sun every day, it'll raise your testosterone, and your mood, and it'll lower your melatonin and raise your dopamine. Eat sugar constantly, good sugar, like fruit. I mean, you can have like candy. Like, I have a bunch of taffy right here. I actually haven't had one since I started this. I meant to. Actually, I won't be able to speak if I eat a taffy. I'll have a fruit pectin. Oh, by the way, have some ASMR for you. I haven't said this publicly, so I should, because it's fun. These little, these little fruit gem candies that are like covered in sugar, and they're usually like made to look like a piece of fruit, and they're made with pectin. Fucking awesome candy. Excuse me. So good, because they're made with pectin. It's a pectin supplement. Like, so especially if you give these to your kids, the little fruit gems, like fruit slices, fake fruit slice candies. They're pectin, and so basically, like, when you're eating them, you're just taking a pectin supplement, and they're really fucking good too. So yeah, so like incel people, like, if you just eat like these fruit gem candies all the time, it'll fix your gut. Eat fruit, get sunshine. It'll improve your physical health. It'll improve your mental health. It'll make you happier. Yeah. I don't know what transmaxing is, but the whole obsession with trans people that the right wing has is just such a misdirect from their own, problems with their own sexuality and their own self-worth. Like, there's no reason to hate on other people, right? Trans people exist. I have one trans family member. I have lots of trans friends. They're wonderful people. They're just people. Do you know what you get when you have trans people? You get more men and more women. Like literally, like if somebody wants to transition, they're just like, if you have uh um trans women, you just have more women. If you have trans men, you just have more. They're men. Like literally, you just have more people. Like this, it's like, like what is your problem? But it's just, you know, it's just a reflection of people's own personal anxieties about their own self-worth and their own sexuality, and you can never resolve those problems by fixating on others. You know, when we have depression, when you feel shitty about yourself, if you don't feel confident about yourself, that you can't ever fix those problems by focusing on others. You actually have to turn inward. And that's what, like, and especially in my book, The Perfect Child. And we've been going for 2 hours and 40 minutes. I haven't even talked about my third book yet. But you don't understand your own innate sense of self-worth. And you can only find that by doing that kind of work for yourself. And you can too. It's actually not that hard. You just need to learn the tools to do that, which is what my second book talks about, the inventory process and that kind of thing. And then if you also too, like self-care, like a lot of people think of like self-care and self-compassion as being like an attitude or a mindset. It's not. Self-care and self-compassion are actions. Like you have to do stuff to show yourself self-compassion and self-care. You need to make yourself meals regularly. You need to keep your blood sugar up. You need to go outside to get sunshine. Going to the gym to work out is not a self-care behavior. Going to the gym to talk to your friends at the gym is a self-care behavior. Working out is more of a discipline function, and it's fine to work out, but like it's not. But that's not self-care. Self-care is where you are taking care of your inherent needs as a human, and working out isn't necessarily doing that. But socializing is, right? Making friends is, eating regularly, getting sunshine, going to sleep, getting some good sleep, cleaning up your apartment, that's self-care. But that can be hard to do too. Like if you're like me and you have a lot of trauma around cleaning, the act of cleaning can literally trigger unresolved experiences of trauma when your mom and dad yelled at you all the time because you were messy, and it just reminds you of that all the time, and you can't willfully do that. There's that asshole guy that his whole thing was like, clean your room. That's well and fine, but people have a hard time doing that. And it's because even the thought of cleaning your room just reminds you of how much your mom hated you because your room was dirty all the time growing up. And so you can't overcome that willfully. You have to do it through self-care and self-compassion, which involves like, sitting down and doing inventory therapy. So yeah. So fixation on trans people is more like more of like a distraction from your own problems, which is understandable, but it's not how it works. So whenever we have problems with ourselves, you always have to turn inward and stop focusing on other people. Whenever you have problems in your own life, whatever they are, you literally have to, it's not about other people. It never is. It's always about your own self and your own experiences that contribute to those issues. So, does it make sense to take an antioxidant like vitamin E or C when getting sun exposure? I mean, yes and no, but that stuff's really complicated. Like I talk about in my book, like vitamin C, we don't absorb. Like this is vitamin C. Like when you take ascorbic acid, you don't absorb it. It is not absorbed into the body. Our body only absorbs dehydroascorbate. So you have to prepare it the way that, like I talk about in my book. Otherwise, it doesn't really do you any good. But yes, antioxidants do protect you from the harmful effects of sun exposure, but the primary ones are carotene. That's why you need carotene. So if you avoid carotene, you don't tan, and you instead just kind of like burn, like you just get red if you get a carotene deficiency in your skin. And then if you restore your carotene, you start tanning, and it helps, and it helps you make vitamin D and protects your body from the harmful effects of high energy wavelengths of light. Carotenes literally do that for plants. That's their entire function. They plants produce carotenes to absorb high energy wavelengths of light to slow down that light energy and reduce it to an energy level that is safe for the plant. And then we eat plants and absorb that into our skin, and it provides the same function in our skin. And that's why skin, like people talk about keratinemia, where your skin can turn orange. That's why your skin turns orange, is because the body literally transports keratin to the skin to help protect your body from high energy wavelengths of light, like UV exposure and blue light and stuff like that. So if you don't eat keratin, then you don't get that protection. And you absolutely have to every day, keratin. Also, you experienced with L-Dopa, felt a distinct crash in mood, which was, yeah. Oh yeah. No, I say that in my book, Mike, that you don't take dopamine or, tyrosine as a supplement, because they'll literally just convert to adrenaline. The way that you raise your dopamine levels is by lowering adrenaline production. But somebody once heard that somebody once came to me for help about, they were feeling really bad every time that they took pregnenolone, and they couldn't understand why. And we diagnosed eventually that they were using a beta blocker, which blocks your adrenaline release. And pregnenolone is the precursor to cortisol, and cortisol rises when adrenaline no longer can raise your blood sugar. And adrenaline raises your blood sugar. So she was having really low blood sugar because she was hacking her adrenaline production, and that raised her cortisol, which then ends up catabolizing your lean tissue. So don't mess with that kind of stuff. That's not how you do it. The way that you do it is by naturally lowering your adrenaline by regularly eating carbohydrate and salt, and by getting sun exposure. And also though too, like volatile emotional experiences also raise adrenaline. That's why the world is in the state that it is. When you get online and you get into a fight with somebody that has ideological differences than you, that raises your adrenaline, and you get addicted to that anger and that adrenaline level, because it's literally releasing sugar from glycogen storage, and it makes you feel better. It's the same reason why, like, cliff jumpers and skydivers and rock climbers get that adrenaline rush. They love it because adrenaline is a steroid that releases glucose from glycogen storage. And so, but if you just eat sugar all the time normally, that will lower your adrenaline production, make you less addicted to anger. Everybody that drinks Diet Coke is a volatile piece of shit. Have you ever noticed? Do you guys know people that drink Diet Coke all the time and that are dieting all the time? They're the most emotionally volatile people in the world. Because they aren't eating sugar, their adrenaline rises so much. Because they have low blood sugar, they use volatile interpersonal conflict as a way to initiate adrenaline release. And because I'm talking about this from personal experience, like my family growing up was very volatile, and the people that dieted were the worst. And it's because adrenaline releases your blood sugar, but also it consumes your dopamine, because adrenaline is made from dopamine. So the way to get happy and to raise your dopamine is not by supplementing that stuff. It's by preventing rises in adrenaline, which is where literally inventory therapy is required to overcome depression, because you have to reteach your unconscious mind to be less fearful. If you're very fearful and you are always getting into arguments with people, and you have volatile interpersonal relationships with others, that drains your dopamine levels. And because tyrosine is involved in the immune system, you get more sick more often, because your immune system is not working very well because of that constant adrenaline release. So you have to address that too. So, okay. Lastly, I'm just going to talk about my third book a little bit. I know a lot of you. Can vitamin D be supplemented safely? Yes, just not a lot, but it won't reverse vitamin D deficiency. It can help, but you gotta do the things that I talk about in my book. And I have some other research on vitamin D coming up, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet, so I won't. But Jamal, is there really a consequential difference between mantra versus breath meditation? Oh, good. This is a good transition. This actually is related to my third book. Oh, and Mike, I'll just quickly answer that, but I'm gonna shift because I got to be done because my voice is dying now. I've been almost doing this for 3 hours. What about high carb, low calorie diet? No, I would do high carb, high calorie diet. No, a low cal, because even if you're doing high carbs, if you're doing low calorie, you'll still have high adrenaline. You can't have a calorie deficit. Anytime that you get a calorie deficit, you get stress hormone rises. So high carb, high calorie, low protein. But low protein, as I talk about in my book, you got to do it strategically, not just like willfully. But anyway, yeah. So Jamal, consequential difference between mantra and breath meditation. Yeah. So like I did. How long was my meditation sessions that helped me receive downloads for your research? Oh yeah. So Jamal's been reading my third book, unlike most people. And there's a chapter on meditation. Like I literally teach you how meditation works and why it works and how to do it. I learned several different meditation methods when I was younger, and I did yoga. And I did Kundalini yoga once. I did hot yoga. I did power yoga. I did just normal yoga. And then I learned Vedic meditation, and I did like a guided meditation group once. And then we'd always do like a breath meditation in one of the yoga schools that I went to. The way that meditation works, which is like I describe this in my book, is that it's effectively self-hypnosis is what you're doing when you do meditation. By fixating on a specific stimulus, you prevent the brain from taking in other stimuli information. And that induces self-hypnosis. So all meditation is basically just doing hypnosis on yourself. And that's one of the reasons why it works so well. And, but yeah, and I talk about in my book that like guided meditation and breath meditation are not quite as good as mantra meditation, although they can work. The thing is that when you do mantra meditation, you're repeating a mantra over and over again in your brain. So the focus is immediately right inside your head, which is where, obviously the hypnosis is taking place. You can do that too by focusing on your breath, but your lungs are a lot farther away from your brain. So the focus is further from your mind, actually. And then if you do like guided meditation, you're having to listen to someone speak. And that really disrupts meditation. You can still do it, but mostly you just end up falling asleep. And it's because your focus is so far away from yourself that you're not really able to induce the state of hypnosis that is so therapeutic to doing meditation. So I prefer of all the one types that I've found, the mantra meditation, like I talk about in my book, is so effective. And you can I literally sit down, within 30 seconds my brain is like, I'm gone. And I'm like right in it. My whole body just collapses in relaxation. It was wonderful. And I haven't talked about this much over the years because I wasn't really sure how to. And it is very useful. And it's not like I'm not like regimented either. I don't meditate every day. I meditate when I feel like it, which is probably like 1 to 4 times a week, depending on how I really need it. Or sometimes I'll go like 2 weeks. I'm forgetting to do it just because I feel great and everything's fine. But meditation is so useful in tapping into your own spirituality, where you tune out everything that's a bother to you. And it's also really a lot of people too. And that's why, like, you guys don't know that my third book, you really got to do inventory therapy before you dive into it, because a lot of things like for instance, if you're trying to learn meditation or yoga as a way to help yourself de-stress and relax and find peace, it's really hard to do that when your unconscious mind is still exceptionally burdened by unresolved experiences of trauma. When I was in my 20s and I first learned yoga, I loved doing it because while I was doing it, I felt really great. But then as soon as I was done and back out in the world, I would just go right back to being tense and anxious and angry and stressed out. And it didn't have long-term benefits on my well-being. And I tell the story of learning meditation and yoga in my third book, Under a Libra God, it's called. Um, and I learned this meditation practice, and it worked really well when I tried it. And I would do it. I would do it every day. But the thing is, though, is like it literally only worked while I was doing it. And as soon as I was done, and especially if I wasn't doing it, it did not have long-term benefits on it. And, you know, people too that sell meditation and yoga and these alternative wellness strategies and new age wellness stuff and even cult-like things, they'll always say that, like, you know, oh, it has long-term benefits. It'll cure you of disease. It'll like, but meditation will not cure you of Porphyromonas gingivalis infection. It won't cure you of trichomonas. Like, you can't, yoga will not cure you of trichomonas vaginalis. Like, you can't do that. It's not how it works. Like, you literally have to, like, you know, those are biological. Yoga and meditation are spiritual. They're not the same. You cannot fix disease through spiritual means. Disease actually does impair spirituality. Like, it makes it harder to relax. It makes it harder to focus, to listen, to be still. You got to be able to sit still to meditate, right? And so if your brain is just constantly like obsessed with like your bank account and your relationship falling apart or people hating you and not liking you, if you're constantly worried about that stuff, it's really hard to even just sit to do the meditation that you got to do to actually access your spirituality. So first taking care. So that's why also too, my books ended up being in order. Fuck Portion Control is all about physical health. And then The Perfect Child is all about mental, psychological health. And then Under a Libra God is all about spiritual health. And you can't do them in reverse order. You have to take care of the body. And I make this analogy in my new book, is that there is no separation between the physical world and the spiritual. What we experience as spirituality is literally the energy that makes us living. So that's why human beings, we have always seen such conceptions as what we call like the soul. Like, when you talk about the soul of a human, it is literally the energy that makes us living, which is what they just say things like the soul, but that's what we're talking about. And that is what spirituality is that energy. But the body is also the vehicle or the temple for that energy, right? So if your body is excessively burdened by stresses like dieting, by like working out too much, by being burdened with unresolved experiences of trauma, with control mechanisms in which we're constantly trying to manipulate and control our friends and family members and our partner, you're damaging the vehicle, the conduit through which that energy is the temple in which that energy lives. So you can't well access it if you don't first resolve those problems. And that's why meditation and yoga never resolved my problems when I was younger, was because I was putting the cart before the horse, right? Proverbially. You have to first fix your body by taking care of it, not by hacking it, because you can't do that, because that is control of nature and we don't have that. But you take care of the body and you nurture the body, then the body gets better. Then you have an easier time, and then you take care of the mind, so that your mind is not constantly obsessed with and distracted by things. And then after that, then you get to experience spirituality, because the energy that makes spirituality has to be able to actually be accessed and flow through you. And I mean, obviously, like, it's flowing through you as long as you're alive, you have that energy in you, but it is just much less than would be otherwise if your physiology was functioning correctly. And also too, and so okay, so you guys are great. Like, this has been 3 hours. We're like hanging out talking about this shit. Like, in my third book, like, I talk about literally what consciousness is. When you're trying to conceptualize consciousness, it's like, trying to think about like the conductivity of tissues, right? Of the nervous system, of the brain. But very interestingly, like, the conductivity of nervous tissue is actually not very fast at all. I forget the exact number. I should memorize these, because when I talk about this stuff, I had to look it up at the time and I just didn't commit it to memory. But like, it's something very slow. It's like something like, this is wrong, but it's like something like 100 meters a second. This is wrong. This is not right. But this is, for example, is the electrical conductivity of literal nervous tissue in our body, which is designed to conduct electricity and nervous impulses. But like, just a normal fucking rocket goes at something like 7,000 meters a second or something like that. That's probably wrong too. But these are just examples, because I don't remember the numbers. So the electrical conductivity of tissue cannot be the thing that facilitates consciousness, because it literally just moves too slowly. Consciousness is something that is instantaneous, and like would theoretically be something that more logically or rationally would like approach the speed of light. Like light is energy, just like the energy that makes up our living person, and the thing that we call the soul or the spirit is the same thing as light. Like, energy is energy. There's not like different, I mean, we categorize different types of energy, but there's literally only one electromagnetic phenomenon in the universe, and then we just categorize its different compositions and appearances and states. But in reality, they're not different. It's all just one electromagnetic force in the universe, which is light, which is heat, which is energy, and then all atoms and their particles and molecules are all also made out of the same energy. And energy can never be destroyed, right? Energy can never be destroyed. It just changes form. So the energy that we are made out of, that is what people have always called like the soul or the spirit. You can't destroy that. It just goes on living. But also, light is the fastest thing in the universe, and it moves at like 300 million meters a second, just short of that. And so you would think that consciousness is more of like, would be more of something quantum, like a function of like the speed of light, rather than the electrical conductivity of our tissue, which it could, because that is not actually very fast at all. And there's this very interesting thing in quantum physics called proton jumping or proton hopping, which is where, actually also proton tunneling, which is where protons in atoms can jump to each other, and they switch places, and it happens at, depending on the exact molecule. For instance, hydronium is the one that I reference in my book, and proton tunneling in hydronium occurs at between 1/3 to 1/4 the speed of light, which is very, very fast. And that kind of thing is much more likely to be what facilitates consciousness. And it's even crazier because proton tunneling or proton jumping was discovered before scientists actually knew the exact molecular composition of water. The water was originally thought to be one hydrogen and one oxygen, but in fact it's H2O. We all know now that it's H2O. But before anyone knew that it was H2O, this guy, I forget his name, but I talk about him in my book. He discovered proton jumping before they literally knew the actual composition of water. So apparently, like even like quantum physics aren't even that like obscure. Like they were enough that this guy discovered this quantum phenomenon even before we knew what water was. So anyway, he was like, and one of the examples is he was using hydronium, which is essentially acidified water. So basically, like generally, hydrogen facilitates acids, and not acidic pH. That can be done by any molecule, but like acids are achieved through hydrogen, and H2O is water is H2O and hydronium is H3O. So it's basically just acidified water. It has an extra hydrogen. And it just so happens that hydronium is one of the prominent states of water, most important states of water in the human body, and even in nervous tissue. There are hydronium, there are parts in regions of cells that are hydronium and need hydronium to function. And so if hydronium quantum jumping occurs in hydronium, it appears that quantum tunneling is actually how consciousness works. That protons jump from proton to proton, from nucleus to nucleus, at 1/3 to 1/4 the speed of light inside of our brain, and that records our experiences in the speed of light. I mean, in that fraction of the speed of light, and that basically like explains consciousness. So I gave away a huge thing that I talk about in my book. There's lots of other really cool, huge things in there, so you guys all read it. I know there's a lot of reading in my work, and you guys have read a lot of shit, but this stuff is great too. It's really fun and it's really cool. And then I also, I also talk about astrology as a as a way to describe the metaphysical laws of the universe and reality. It doesn't mean that astrology is real. Most astrologers are stupid and very often charlatans. Most astrology is entertainment astrology, but the phenomenon that underlies what is astrology is real. And astrology always has sought to describe it. Not a lot of people know that very famous scientists like Galileo Galilei were astrologers. And Galileo was not studying astronomy because he was just scientifically interested in, the orbit of Jupiter or, anything like that. He was literally studying astronomy to understand astrology. And he was a major astrologer, and he did astrology for people, and he taught astrology classes. He was fantastic. And it was because, like me, he recognized that the laws that make up the metaphysical reality of events and cause and consequence and the progression, the procession of time and life is reflected back at us in larger structures. So the same forces that, like, say for instance, determine when in time you meet the love of your life also affect how and like where Venus ended up being placed in the solar system and how it orbits and relates relatively to us here on Earth. So it's really fun, crazy stuff. But in terms of meditation and consciousness, if consciousness, and I believe it is, if consciousness is mediated through hydronium atoms, molecules that engage in proton hopping and proton jumping, they need energy and hydrogen to achieve that. And that's why this is where your metabolic rate and your state of health affect the quality of your consciousness, and literally the quality of like meditation and your ability to experience life. It's why when you're very old, when you're very ill, metabolically ill, or if you're like an alcoholic and you drink all the time, it's why time seems to accelerate so quickly, and everything goes by very quick, and you're not present, and you have a really hard time sitting still. you don't have enough energy to run your consciousness at the rate that is required to be more present. And like, I don't know if anybody's here that might remember this, but the very first version of my book that I published, I had a part where I talked about how sodium repletion increased my experience of time, where I literally felt I was able to be more present and time seemed slower when I was replete with sodium and or also did things that restored my normal sodium status and metabolism. And it turns out that the reason for that was because of sodium's role in driving cellular metabolism. And that the increase in cellular metabolism, which occurs from sodium repletion, which is also, again, one of the roles of adrenaline, is to increase sodium flux through cells, increases the metabolic rate, which increases the rate of proton jumping through the hydronium in your brain, in your cells, which facilitates consciousness. So this is also why when you have like a life, if you have like an emergency or like a life-threatening experience or like a confrontation with people, time seems to slow down, is because you get this massive release of adrenaline and endorphins that drive sodium flux so much that it increases the rate of hydronium of proton hopping in your brain to increase your consciousness, which then relatively seems to make time go slower, because you have more proton jumping happening in that instance because of the way that your stress reaction drives sodium flux. So, but the same thing happens. Like, this is why like you feel calmer and time goes by slower and is nicer when you have good health and you are well fed and you have sodium restoration or sodium repletion, is because of its maintenance of consciousness, literally. And why the opposite occurs when we get sick, which is when we have a hard time sitting and being present, and time goes by much more quickly, and we feel like time goes by too fast, is because of how the deficit in metabolism and sodium then oppositely slows down proton jumping, which is what facilitates consciousness. So yeah. Sodium bicarbonate, because it oh yeah, exactly, Mike. Yeah. Well, and also too, because athleticism, like when you're an athlete, when you're performing, when you're doing stuff, you do become your consciousness speeds up. You become more present because you're like constantly like, trying to because your physical activity has stimulated adrenaline and endorphins. And yeah, and so like but Mike, if you supplement the sodium before you work out, you'll have a better response, because your body won't have to release as much adrenaline to get the same amount of sodium flux through your cells. It's much better. But I also would not use sodium bicarbonate, because the bicarbonate really powerfully neutralizes your stomach acid. Use sodium citrate or just normal salt instead, it'll do you better than that. You can see the squash bite fly around better. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but yeah, I also recently, this is just kind of something fun, but I mean, it's not fun. It's also like volatile and everything. But very recently, like if you guys don't know, I put up a new spirituality section on my website. It kind of goes over these basics. It talks about also like a little summary about Under a Libra God, and talks about a little bit of astrological stuff. And so like you can go read like what I think is most important for each of your signs right now, like what you're primarily going through. So just to kind of like just talk more about what that book is and what this is like, I'm a Libra, and the reason I called my book Under a Libra God is because Libras are annoying. Libras are like probably the most annoying sign. We're always telling people what to do. We waffle in decision making. We are very often flighty and unreliable. But we can also be peacemaker. Mahatma Gandhi was a Libra. He's probably one of the least annoying Libras ever. But I know he was annoying to the British. You know, the British found Mahatma Gandhi extremely annoying, right? And so I'm basically like, you know, like God is like annoying. Like the concept of God is annoying. Like God is annoying. You know, there's terrible things going on in the world, and God doesn't do anything about it. But that's what like life is, and because Libra is also the sign of balance. That's why it's also the sign of relationships, because relationships inherently need to be balanced in order to function. And so those themes of balance, and like the theme of balance that we see not just in our own lives but in the world, and also in physical phenomena. I mean, obviously, like you have to have in order for the Earth to orbit around the sun, there has to be a balance between the Earth's mass and velocity and the gravity of the sun. Otherwise, the Earth either flies off into space or gets pulled down into the sun and eaten by the sun. And so balance exists as a metaphysical law. It's not just some arbitrary human concept that we came up with. And so these metaphysical laws of the universe that do exist, that make the universe function, practices like astrology seek to identify and describe them, because we can see it reflected in the movement of like the planets and other phenomena that we see in the physical world around us. And so like so Libras very specifically, we have had the planets Neptune. Well, we've had Neptune, which is the planet. So Neptune is the planet, represents, because also planets don't have magic. Again, this is not like, believe it or not, this is real. And this is also rational. I am not saying planets do not have magical control over our lives. That's not what this is. Everyone has always thought that they had magical control over our lives, but really it's just a observational corollary where the principles in life that we experience as spirituality or as delusion or as secrets and the unknown are also why Neptune happened to be where it is and what it is and the orbit that it has. So you see correlations between them. And that's what astrology is. Astrology is the observation of these correlations, not because there's anything magical about like Venus or anything like that. But anyway, okay. So Libras, we have had Neptune in our 6th zodiac house of what is traditionally called work and health together. And that also seemed very disparate, right? Like why are work and health related, right? That seems weird. Also, the 6th house rules pets for some weird reason traditionally. And remember too, astrology began in ancient Babylon. Like the reason that astrology has been around for thousands of years is because it is literally the first science that was ever created. Like our ancestors looking up at the stars in heaven saw a correlation between them and the events in our lives. And then they sought to understand why those correlations were there and explain them, and then also predict them, because it is human nature to try to avoid misfortune. But astrology has been around since ancient Babylon, and it persists not because it's superstitious, but because it is literally based on real phenomena and in how the universe is constructed. And so, anyway, we're the house of work and health, which is they divided the zodiac into 12 different pieces, sectors. The 6th sector has always been like work and health, and also includes like pets. But what I found out, I figured out from my years of experience doing this, and you know, just naturally inquisitive nature, I realized that the 6th house is really best described as the house of labors. It is what you do every day and what you're required to do every day So that's why it includes like work and health, because for work, obviously to work and earn money, you got to go to work every day, right? And you got to earn money and you got to show up and you got to do your job. But also in health, you have to eat regularly. You got to eat breakfast, you got to eat lunch and dinner, and you got to snack. And you got to go for walks and exercise, and you have to like, take medicine, not every day, but like if you need to every day. Like drinking tea every day. And then it also includes pets, because like you have to take care of your pets every day. Like you literally have to take care, like you have to wake up and you have to feed your dog and you have to take them for walks and you have to clean up their poop. So like literally, the house of work and health is actually the house of labors. But it affects like your work and your health. And all Libras have had Neptune in this sector since 2011, and it is literally leaving next month in January, finally. So it has been, what year is it? 2025? It has literally been in this sector for 14 years. And all of you will know that around 2012 is when I first started getting really sick. That's when my I've always had health problems, but they weren't severe, and they were mild enough that I never even considered that I had like an actual condition. But after 2011, starting in around 2012, is when I first started having very extreme fatigue and insomnia, and started gaining a lot of weight and started losing my hair, and it progressed and got worse and worse and worse until about the end of 2014, which is when I first discovered repeat. And part of the delusional aspect of Neptune is this, like for me personally, in that experience, was that the delusion was that I could abuse my body and diet and starve it without consequences. But Neptune is also the planet of the unknown and spirituality. So I could not actually figure out what was ultimately wrong with myself, and I just had to do the best I could and try to make progress as best I could over time. And it wasn't until about 2020, like during the pandemic, that I discovered that it was cystic fibrosis, undiagnosed cystic fibrosis, which was at the root of my health problems. And so this demonstrates how what my third book is about, which is the first book is about your physical health, second book is about your mental health, and the third book is about spirituality and your spiritual health, and the metaphysical laws of the universe that construct everything. Can I talk about the next 20 years for Scorpios that you told me in the DMs? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. So Pluto. But anyway. Oh, sorry. So this entire time from 2011 until like this month, I have been engaged in the research and discovery of the illnesses that I have suffered, which was very difficult because Neptune is also is the planet that represents the unknown. And so I literally it was really even hard to even find out what was wrong with me in the first place. A lot of people, anyone who's not a Libra would have easily just like have a disease and they go to a doctor and they're like, oh, you have leukemia, and so let's treat it. But with the Neptune transit, I couldn't get that because of this is how reality works. Lots of Libras died during this transit. One, Michelle Trachtenberg, she was on Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, when I was growing up. Everyone loved her so much, and she died like last year from undiagnosed diabetes. She literally just like had diabetes and had not gotten diagnosed and collapsed and died in her apartment from it. But because it's also work, because it's your daily labors, it's like what you do every day, I even used that information in my research. when I was having a really hard time figuring out what was wrong with me, when I realized that the sixth house with Neptune affected it made it difficult to understand what I needed to do every day to take care of my health, instead of looking for extreme and exotic solutions to my problems, I thought, okay, actually, it's what I'm doing every day. What am I not doing every day? Oh, I could drink tea every day. I could make sure that all my food contains tannins. I could drinking, like making silicone water, drinking spring water instead of municipal fluoridated water. Those kinds of things are what this house rules. So yeah, and actually, Jamal, you bring up Scorpios, so unfortunately you guys have this transit next, actually. But the thing with Neptune transits too is that you do get a choice. You can't do anything about the unknown stuff and those kinds of things, but Neptune transits they are invariably either spiritual or delusional. You can't, it's not, you get a choice, but it's only those two choices. So Libras that went into this transit thinking that, like I did initially, thinking that you can starve yourself without consequences, will be rudely interrupted by that. But because this also is your work, and I saw this said, I didn't observe this. I've seen this said numerous times, that when you have a sixth house Neptune transit, that your work and career are very difficult to progress if it is not oriented in the service of others. And that was exactly my experience, even before I knew about any of this stuff. I was a graphic designer and animator, and as you can tell, I think pretty good, by the work, the art that you guys see that I do. I was really good. I was actually like one of the most in demand in Los Angeles when I was there. But I never got paid very well for being in Los Angeles. Like for instance, editors that worked at the same company that I worked at made $180,000 a year. Just normal editors who weren't like very special. They're just doing normal editing job. And artists, just are, I guess it's just because we're like just perpetually timid. There's no artists union. They don't unionize, and they don't demand better pay. And so I like the most I ever could make. Usually in most of my career, I only made between like 70 and 80,000 a year. And then I did get that one job that I made 130, which is still very low for Los Angeles to live there. And I literally should have been being paid more like 180, just like my editing coworkers. But anyway, but even like I just constantly was stymied every turn. I always trying to advance my career, to try to become an art director, to try to get better job opportunities, and just none of it was ever working. And then then all this happened, and I started posting on forums, and then people were asking me for help. So I made my website, and then more people were going to my website. So then I wrote my book, and then more people bought my book. So I started doing, more content creation, more research. And that, like, literally my experience over the last 14 years has been one of where, like, my career literally changed from one that was more just focused on myself to one which then became all about other people. And once I started doing that, I mean, obviously, like, a lot of people measure success in terms of money, but like in terms of effectiveness, I have been much more effective in my career ever since I switched to doing this thing where I help people and stuff like that. So that's what that is. And yeah, yeah, Jamal, like you guys have this same thing now, and it technically started earlier, like this year, but it often there are retrogrades that go back and forth, and it doesn't fully start until later. And so the full transit of Neptune and also Saturn, who happens to right now be in the same place, begins really next year in like January to April and March. And what's also very fascinating too is like every time Neptune and Saturn conjunct, like they are at this moment, there are always substantial upheavals in government and society. And especially actually in relevance to like themes of socialism and communism and those kinds of like, because functionally, like a lot of people obviously criticize socialism and communism, but they when we do that too, they're also what they're usually criticizing is authoritarian systems, where, like, say for instance the USSR was an authoritarian communist society. And there's a big difference between like authoritarianism and like democracy, right? So but anyway, but like, so the last time that these were conjunct, guess what, in 1980, like whatever that was, guess what happened? That was at the fall of the Berlin Wall. And this happens regularly every about, I think it's like what, 39 years, like every 39 years when Neptune and Saturn conjunct, you see these huge shifts in because Saturn is also like the planet of discipline and authoritarianism. Literally, actually, it's like governments and structure and laws and society, because it rules Capricorn, which is the house of society, and rules like your public image and stuff like that, but also rules governments and structures like that, institutions. So you get this conjunction of the planet of institution with the planet of both spirituality but also delusion. And so you always get these really interesting, like, phenomenal, world changing shifts in government. And that's what we're seeing right now. Literally, like, Donald Trump being the president of the United States and literally destroying all of these institutional structures that have harmed not only our country, but other countries as well. And mind you, not even doing it intentionally. It's mostly through like, Raisa Mamdani related. Yeah, exactly. Like, suddenly all of these like altruistic young socialist types are actually winning elections because everyone is finally realizing how destructive authoritarian capitalism has been. It's literally, nobody can afford anything anymore. We've killed so many people in other countries. People can't afford rent. Groceries are spiking. We haven't seen any sort of progress in wage growth for normal Americans. There's obscene amounts of wealth consolidation in just a tiny portion of the population. So everyone is seeing the candy. You mean the candy brand of the pectin candy that I have? It's actually sun-kissed ones. They're actually, but I bought a bunch of candy on like it's like a naturalcandy.com or something like that site. So I got it from there, actually, because a lot of candies are made of really bad shit. So it's best to get like high quality stuff, like good ingredients that adhere to my principles. But yeah. So that's why everything is so shit right now. Actually, I'm so crazy right now is because also, even at the same time the Berlin Wall fell too. That was the end of apartheid South Africa too. Happened right after that catalyzed it. And so we're seeing that happen right now in our current world, that everything is so chaotic, and because massive shifts are occurring that correlate with these observable other phenomena. Like you can look at like astrology to sort of see that. You can't, but a lot of people are tempted to like predict the future so that we can avoid misfortune. That's not possible. You can't do that. You literally can't do that. If we could avoid misfortune just by knowing astrology, you would literally be God. Like this is not how it works. But you can be wise to stuff. You can understand reality, and that can help you to better tap into your experience, to have a better experience, because you better understand why things are going on, what the purpose of life is. It's not just arbitrary, that even the universe is aware of you. Like I make this argument in my book, in the new book, that we are not separate from the universe, yet so many people treat science and reality and humanity like we are. Like, Neil deGrasse Tyson is actually a great example of this, where people literally think that humans, because we can think and rationalize, are actually separate from the laws of reality, that we just happen to live on a planet in space, but we're actually exempt from the laws of cause and consequence and other metaphysical things. And that's so dumb. Like, literally, like, our brains only work because of quantum principles of how which underlie the construction of the universe. Like, consciousness, we are not separate from the universe. We are fully a part of the universe. And because we have consciousness, we can know that also the universe has consciousness. It is consciousness is a reality of reality. We would not have consciousness if it was not part of how the universe actually works. And it's the same thing with life. There's all these dumb people who are like, oh, life is so rare and we're like probably the only life in the entire universe. Like, no, that's not how. We're not special. We are not special. This isn't how anything works. Like, the fact that we are alive means that life is a constant principle in the entirety of reality. And to support this too, scientists have even found amino acids on comets. I think the latest one they found was tryptophan, literally existing on cometary dust, because tryptophan is just a collection of molecules that are attracted to each other by the weak and strong atomic forces and gravity. It's like, it's really easy to understand how life comes together. Life comes together spontaneously in environments for the same reason that it continues to exist in the one in which we live, which is because inherent principles of organization which support the construction of molecules is what creates life. And that is a constancy throughout the universe. It cannot just be isolated to our tiny little planet, because we wouldn't even be here if laws of reality were distributed like that unevenly. They exist everywhere. Anyway, so that's what my whole new book is about, and it's really fun like that. But what about Taurus? Let's see, Taurus, you have, Taurus, you have, I think Neptune is entering your, here, I can bring this up real quick. I think Neptune is entering your house of the self, your first house of the self, which is kind of a perilous transit, actually. Because when Neptune, the planet of, yes. Oh, no, sorry, I'm wrong. Sorry, I was wrong. You don't have to worry about this for 14 years. Taurus, Neptune's entering your house of spirituality. So it's the 12th house for you guys. So what that means, and it's been in your 11th house, actually, Taurus. So Lena, like, for the last, like, since 2011, Neptune has had you have either both delusional or spiritual experiences with both your friends and your wealth, like your bank, like your savings and your assets that you hold. The 11th house is the house of fortune, which also which encapsulates like friendships and wealth that you have accumulated, like investments, savings accounts, inheritances, like the money that you've earned over your life, but also friendships. And so when you have Neptune in that, you can be delusional about who is really a friend or what to do with your money and investments. So you've been experiencing that. And then, but now it's moving into your 12th house, which is the end of the zodiac cycle. And that's the house of endings and of spirituality. And Aries has had this for the last since 2011. And when Neptune transits that, you can be delusional about what spirituality is actually. Or remember, you get a choice with Neptune, so it can be spiritual or delusional. And like I talk about this in my book, I have instructions for this and guides. It's not nebulous or arbitrary. If it is delusional, it is something that serves the ego. And if it is spiritual, it is something that subverts the ego. And very often, spirituality is achieved like through service to others, because that inherently subverts the ego. But you obviously, right, you can do things for other people that are just self-serving. We all do that. We can give people presents, and if they don't like it, we get upset. That, you're not like, if you give a gift to somebody with the expectation that you get something back from it, that's selfish, right? That's delusional. When you do things for others, it should be done without concern for your own benefit. And that is what real spirituality is. So during Neptune's transit of your 12th house, then, you want to always make sure that you're thinking like of others rather than conceptions that serve your own ego. Oh, but Taurus, though, for you all now, so everyone, like, Pluto transits are the most consequential, actually. And this is also why Jamal brought up the next 20 years for Scorpios, because Pluto's transit, Pluto's orbit through the solar system is highly eccentric. So its time that it spends in each house is not equal. And it's currently at its slowest in the zodiac, which is currently going through Aquarius. Actually, I think the absolute slowest is the next sign in Pisces, but we're in like the era when it's the slowest. And so and Pluto is the planet that represents control and power. So wherever Pluto is transiting through in your relative to your sun sign, what your sun sign is, will be themes of control and power in your life. For Taurus, it has entered your house of society, the one I was talking about earlier. It's how you're perceived in public. It's how you are perceived at work, how your career goes. This can be very perilous because you will receive those influences where people maybe misunderstand you. Like they might think like you're bad at your job, or like you're not, or they just don't like you, or like they think I think Mark Zuckerberg is a Taurus, for instance, and he's already, people haven't liked him anyway for a long time, but more recently he's been really aggressive at trying to rehabilitate his public image. And that is very much what this transit is. But the thing is we don't actually have control over that. So when you try to control things that you don't, as a mortal human being, actually have control over, it often blows up in your face. And so his efforts to actually affect that have backfired and made it even worse. So refrain from control behaviors, especially in terms of your career and the place you work and how people think of you. You just have to let them think what they want to, and you just can't control it. And all you have to do is show up and do your best. Like I talk about in my book. But yeah. Anyway, but that's one of the things. So this is also on my website in the section on spirituality. You can all go look at a short summary for your sign in each of the major influences. And I'd really implore you guys to go look at the Pluto transit for your sign, because Pluto transits are very perilous. So for instance, Geminis all, for the and because this is such a long influence too, ever since 2008 until last year in 2024, Geminis all had Pluto in their house, also in their house of power and control. So they were just basically a lot of them were very ruthless in their desire for power and control. Chiefest of this example is President Trump. Trump is a Gemini, and also my mom was a Gemini, and so was one of my sisters, and there's lots of other Gemini examples that are like this. I think Rudy Giuliani also was a Gemini, and anyway, and so ever since 2008, their drive was just to obtain power for the sake of power. And like literally it's just textbook, like you can see it in his journey. But then Pluto left last year and went into the house of philosophy. So you actually saw this softening of Trump once he actually won legitimately the presidency. Like he didn't have to cheat, like people just voted for him and he won, and he saw that he was like, oh my God, like he had this like sort of revelation at the end that like he actually didn't need to cheat. All he had to do was just like show up and, you know, and he could just win like legitimately. And so he did. And so you saw this kind of softening of him when he finally entered the office, that he was like, he was less cutthroat and he was less, and because it's now in their house of philosophy that they're learned that then now Geminis are seeing the consequences of control behaviors in how it affects their life experience and their worldview. And now they're now that influence is there for them too. So, but anyway, so where your power and control is, influence is really consequential. So read my book, obviously, and learn about this stuff, and you can literally be more effective in like literally understanding like your life path and how reality works and how fate and consequences and cause and consequence work. And because a lot of us, we spend a lot of our lives sort of kind of you know, wondering if there's a point to living and what we should do, you know, to do our best and to have ideology and philosophy and beliefs that inform what we do. And if you literally understand how the universe works, you can be more effective and you can have a more enjoyable life experience, even when you experience misfortune and you know, loss and heartache and all that other stuff that comes in life too. Because you get a more enlightened, like me, you get a more enlightened perspective on what suffering is and what loss is and what cause and consequence is, and turn a lot of things over to the universe that we normally try to assume responsibility for, like whether people love us or whether we get sick, which are not things that you can actually decide because we're not God. And yeah, anyway, thank you everyone for coming by. This was really fun. It was super long. And I really appreciate you. I will try to stream more often. I say that every time I stream and then I don't, so I don't know when I'll be on next. But like the video, comment on the video because that increases viewership. Share it with your friends. Buy my new book if you have money, and if not, just download the ebook for donation. Yeah, and follow me on social media. Happy holidays. Yes, happy holidays. Innate. Yeah. Love you guys, and hope you're all well, and take care of yourselves, and I will see you the next time that I do a stream. Bye.